Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Thursday, January 22nd, 2026. My name is Emma Vigeland, in for Sam Seder, and this is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Jostein Hauge, back with us to talk about Davos, Trump's declining support on the global stage, as well as America's and China's rise. And later in the show, Claire Valdez, New York State Assemblyperson and candidate for New York's 7th Congressional District, will be with us to talk about her race. Also on the program, after a stock market panic, Trump reverses on wanting to invade and annex Greenland. That's good news. ICE terror picks up in Maine, a state with many refugees. Stay safe up there. ICE also kidnapped a 5-year-old boy in Minnesota, using him as bait to lure out his father from their home. A whistleblower reveals that ICE told agents to enter homes without a judicial warrant, then hid the paper trail and issued the orders verbally. The case of an immigrant strangled to death in a Texas concentration camp has been officially ruled a homicide. An appeals court panel stacked with Republican appointees reverses a judicial order and now they say ICE can pepper spray and arrest peaceful protesters. House Democratic leaders will oppose ICE funding in a vote today, but Jeffries is reportedly only recommending his caucus vote against it and isn't whipping votes. Remember that Chicago ICE raid where children were zip-tied while naked and ICE broke a bunch of windows and wrecked the property? Well, Illinois is now investigating the slumlord for calling immigration on their own tenants. The show told you that was very likely the case many, many months ago, so... Trende Aragua. A Texas jury has acquitted a former Uvalde school police officer who failed to stop the gunman at the elementary school. Israel killed at least 11 people in Gaza yesterday, including 3 journalists. At Davos, Jared Kushner advertises his master plan, his words, to carve up Gaza for real estate developers. And lastly, the Supreme Court appears poised to prevent Trump from firing Fed Governor Lisa Cook. The Supreme Court will stand up when Capitol is in trouble. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's an M Majority Report Thursday. Hello, Matt. Hello, Brian. Hello, audience. Hello. Hello! Hey! What's up, guys? There's 2 million of you now, and we're pretty popular. Woo-hoo-hoo! I guess.
Brian bump keeps bumping.
Yep. The Brian bump meant something different like 10 years ago, right? We have reached 2 million subscribers. So I keep forgetting to fix my soundboard. I thought my iPad was stolen and locked it, but forgot. Oh,
That's
Whoa.
my soundboard being messed up there.
Forgot that I had brought it into the office for my soundboard. Anyway,
Perfect way to celebrate 2 million at Majority Report with a bunch of errors.
Yes.
I am in it to win it.
In keeping with the show's tradition. So, I mean, gosh, when you started here, Matt, do you remember what the subscriber count was?
Yeah, I do.
What was it?
About 40,000.
Oh my God, really? Yeah. Wow. All right, well,
Can't believe you thought that was a job.
Hey, right.
And I was impressed at that time.
Thank you all so much. We love you all. Couldn't do this without you. If you'd like to support this program, join themajorityreport.com. Your membership keeps us afloat. If YouTube went away tomorrow or they changed the revenue system, we would be really screwed.
It'd be all on
members.
jointhemajorityreport.com.
Yes. But let's get to the news here. So, as I mentioned, ICE has arrived in Maine. Maine, stay safe. Maine has a disproportionate number of refugees relative to other states, or at least has had an influx of refugees recently. And they're calling this operation Catch of the Day. Why do they have to have different operational names for every state? It just seems like...
It's just part of the whole cosplay.
I get it, but like, why not just make your fascist operation one thing? It doesn't need to be state specific, but they like to play with words.
I mean, they're occupying different parts of the world. It's different strategies. Like, that's what's happening is instead of, Iraq and, other Afghanistan,
right.
It's Charlotte and Minneapolis. And
in Minnesota, it's still just absolutely horrific there. There was a really important whistleblower complaint that came out yesterday. It appears that Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut is kind of responsible for digging some of this stuff up. I think they're leaking this stuff right now. And Sam kind of floated this theory to me as well last night when we were chatting. In anticipation of the vote today in the House on ICE funding. Jeffries and the rest of leadership is recommending that the rest of the caucus vote against it, but not whipping votes against it, which is a distinct difference.
Capitulation to fascism.
Whipping votes involves, sticks and carrots as well. And
there's no point to a party unless you're just going to whip for what? Supporting Israel? That's
what competent leadership does. I mean, for all of our issues with Nancy Pelosi, she was quite effective at keeping her caucus together. We'll see what this vote ends up being in the House, but it's really the Senate that has the power to stop this. And Chuck Schumer has shown no indication that he's willing to do so. And so leaks need to start happening to reveal the horror and of ICE's operations, the illegality, the lawlessness that is inherent to ICE's operations. That is a very bedrock foundation of how they conduct their business, their terror across the country. So this leak, very significant. The AP writes, federal immigration officers are asserting sweeping power to forcibly enter people's homes without a judicial warrant, according to an internal Immigration and Customs Enforcement memo obtained by the Associated Press, marking a sharp reversal of long-standing guidance meant to respect constitutional limits on government searches. The memo authorizes ICE officers to use force to enter a residence based solely on a more narrow administrative warrant to arrest someone with a final order of removal, a move that advocates say collides with Fourth Amendment protections and upends years of advice given to immigrant communities. That's by design, of course. They're trying to circumvent the recommendations that advocates have given and local leaders have told to people. They need a judicial warrant to enter your home. Well, it turns out ICE's directives internally have said basically to disregard that. Now, you're going to hear this term administrative warrant throughout this piece. And I'm going to explain why that's not actually a warrant. It's basically the equivalent of your teacher gives you a permission slip for your parents to sign. And instead of just like forging the signature or something like that, you just make your own permission slip and call it a permission slip. That's not what this is. Warrants are filled out by judges, not the administration, not ICE officers, which is what administrative warrants are.
And this end run around the Constitution has been telegraphed by the president, the vice president, when they talk about, well, we can't do due process because it's such an emergency that Joe Biden has left us with. And a lot of the toadies in media have also said that. Like, it's too big of a problem. So now, for the Fourth Amendment, just screw it.
Yeah.
And every single person who supported this deportation hysteria also supports that.
Exactly. The memo itself has not been widely shared within the agency, according to a whistleblower complaint, but its contents have been used to train new ICE officers who are being deployed into cities and towns to implement the president's immigration crackdown. New ICE hires and those still in training are being told to follow the memo's guidance instead of written training materials that actually contradict the memo, according to the whistleblower disclosure. I just want to sit with this for a second. It's a verbal-only order. The article will continue and lays this out, but they issued this memo earlier this year, then stopped circulating it because they didn't want a paper trail, and now have just been training ICE officers with a verbal confirmation of this illegal policy because they're afraid of having a paper trail. And we have Democrats that are considering funding this agency right now. The Associated Press obtained the memo and whistleblower complaint from an official in Congress who shared it on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive documents. Again, I think this theory is correct, that it's some Democratic staffer or someone working with a high-level Democrat trying to box in some of these Democrats who aren't standing up to this lawlessness. The AP verified the authenticity of the accounts in the complaint. The memo, signed by the acting director of ICE, Todd Lyons, and dated May 12, 2025, says, although the U.S. Department of Homeland Security has not historically relied on administrative warrants alone to arrest aliens subject to final orders of removal in their place of residence, the DHS Office of the General Counsel has recently determined that the U.S. Constitution, the Immigration and Nationality Act, and the immigration regulations do not prohibit relying on administrative warrants for this purpose.
The DHS Office of the General Counsel created after we were all alive in our teenage years.
Yep, it was an outgrowth of the War on Terror. Yeah. These warrants are forms filled out by ICE officers. This is it's a form I-205. They're signed by immigration officials, not regular judges. And when we're talking about the War on Terror, this is a good opportunity to bring up political nerds may remember the term FISA judges. So, when we're talking about DHS and ICE being an outgrowth of the War on Terror infrastructure, you might recall that the Bush administration was overseeing warrantless wiretapping, mass surveillance throughout both terms of Americans without the approval of judges. Now, towards the end of his second term, it was basically discovered that this was happening, and the Democrats go, okay, but can you please go through a judge first? That was what happened. And in the end, they turned to FISA judges. These are these secretive, specialized judges specifically for surveillance warrants, specifically for things like intelligence and national security. And they would just rubber stamp all of this. So it gave them the pretense of going through a judge, but these were special judges. And even still, this is much more legal than what ICE is doing here, because those are still federal judges. Those are still warrants from a judge, not administrative warrants that are just signed by ICE officers. So we're seeing here the complete erosion of our Fourth Amendment protections and other protections because the War on Terror, and specifically the Patriot Act, blended these operations, foreign intelligence, and domestic law enforcement. And because of the way that power is accumulated and rights can be eroded much more easily than they can be built up, it's gotten worse and worse, even when you're looking at, say, the FISA judges as a point of comparison. And one more part from this piece, and then we'll get to this awful story about how they're rounding up children in Minnesota. But The memo says ICE officers can forcibly enter homes and arrest immigrants using just a signed administrative warrant known as an I-205 if they have a final order of removal issued by an immigration judge, the Board of Immigration Appeals, or a district judge or magistrate judge. The memo says officers must knock on the door and share who they are and why they're at the residence, but they're limited in the hours they can go into the home after 6 a.m. and before 10 p.m. The people inside must be given a reasonable chance to act lawfully, but if that doesn't work, the memo says they can just use force to go in. The memo is addressed to all ICE personnel, but it has been shown only to select DHS officials who then shared it with some employees who were told to read it and return it, whistleblower aide wrote in the discourse and disclosure. One of the two whistleblowers was allowed to view the memo only in the presence of a supervisor and then had to give it back. That person was not allowed to take notes. A whistleblower was able to access the document and lawfully disclose it to Congress.
Feels legal.
Feels legal. That's what you do.
Yeah.
This memo, you can't take it with you, but we're going to read it to you, and you got to be secretive about it. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. So with that, you're just seeing here, this is the Trump administration, the executive branch, trying to completely circumvent the judiciary as they've tried to circumvent the legislature. This is about authoritarianism. And ICE is now taking just children. They've kidnapped multiple children. You have Minnesota community members saying that ICE is basically stationed outside schools. This is the Protect the Kids party, just reminding people here, that are okay with masked men whose identities we have no idea who they are. There's no way to verify. They're trying to hide their identities. We have masked, unidentified men paid for by your tax dollars stationed outside your kid's school, ready to kidnap them. The Protecting Kids party. And it's not just happening in Minnesota. I saw there was an article in Seattle that in surrounding areas they had to shelter in place half a dozen schools due to ICE activity a day or two ago. And now there's this story of Liam. This photo that you're going to see here has gone viral. He just turned 5. He's one of 4 children in this school district near Minneapolis, Columbia Heights, which is a heavily Hispanic and Latino district in the metro area. And apparently ICE, when this kid was coming home, got him, asked him to knock on the door to see if anyone was inside because they wanted to take his father. And they were successful in that, using this child as bait. And Liam's older brother, who's in middle school, came home about a half hour later and found that his father and brother were missing. Here is a local KARE 11 NBC Twin Cities report on this incident.
Inside Valley View Elementary in Columbia Heights, there's a preschool classroom filled with 4- and 5-year-olds who may soon wonder what happened to one of their classmates, Liam Ramos.
He's a bright young student, and he's so kind.
Ella Sullivan is Liam's preschool teacher. She says her students haven't asked about Liam yet, but they will, and she and other teachers wonder how they can possibly answer their questions.
All I want is for him to be safe and back here.
The family's lawyer says Liam is likely being held with his father at a detention facility in Texas.
We have clients that once they're picked up, they're whisked away to the airport literally within hours.
School officials say Liam is one of 4 students who have been detained by ICE agents over the last 2 weeks, including another student who was also detained on Tuesday.
On the way to school, a 17-year-old high school student, a minor, was taken by armed, masked agents. Alone. No parents were present.
Superintendent Zena Stenvik says the other 2 students include another 17-year-old and her mother, who were detained by ICE last week, and a 10-year-old girl who was also detained with her mother on their way to school 2 weeks ago.
And by the end of the school day, They were already in a detention center in Texas, and they are still there.
He's terrified.
Pastor Sergio Amezcua is also working with Liam's family. He says many in the Latino community are deeply concerned about children being taken by federal agents.
Let Child Protection Services take care of them while the parents will battle the legal battle.
Amezcua says many in the community are now afraid to leave their homes. His church has now received food delivery requests from more than 27,000 families who are scared to go to the grocery store.
Yep, scared. I mean, of course they are. Of course they are. How much longer is Minnesota going to be terrorized like this? How much longer? We're getting IMs here. Apparently, there was a woman in ICE, or a woman in Portland, tased by ICE, or tasked. Perhaps I'm misreading that. But either way, yesterday, after dropping her kids off at school, we saw that they're targeting daycare centers.
Mm-hmm. We had that story in New Jersey where there's a 6-year-old girl who's just left alone.
Yeah.
Wandering the streets.
It is an absolute horror show in this country right now. And so if you're in Minnesota tomorrow, unions across the state, bus drivers, janitorial workers, teachers, they've joined this call for a statewide shutdown here on January 23rd. Let's hear a little bit here from local union reps in Minnesota on what they're asking for tomorrow, January 23rd.
On January 23, the ATU Local 1005 stands in solidarity and endorses the call for a collective refusal to work in solidarity with immigrant communities, with protesters demanding an end to militarized raids, and with all of those who refuse to accept a normalized state of violence. Where's the morality in tear gas directed at a family? Where's the justice when a mother's life is taken? Where's the accountability when federal power overrides community safety and constitutional rights? Working people cannot stand aside while our neighbors are terrorized and our families are fractured, because those are our families. Those are our neighbors. Those are us. They are us. The community made the call for this day of no work, no school, and no shopping. Members started telling us in large numbers that they were going to honor that call of the 23rd. 95% of them said they were planning not to go to work.
In his letter from a Birmingham jail, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." As Dr. King describes, an injury to one is an injury to all. This belief is the bedrock of the labor movement, active solidarity. Right now, labor unions must stand together in a network of solidarity to demand that ICE leave Minnesota and stop inflicting this public safety hazard on our community.
So, Minnesota, stand up there. Tomorrow is the day. And, I mean, I know Minnesota's already standing up. But point being is we hope that tomorrow is a big success. And organized labor being behind this is a really good sign. Did you want to add something?
No.
Okay. All right.
Well, I was just going to say Trump pulling back from Greenland over a dip in the stock market shows that this administration only understands money.
There you go.
So
there you go. In a moment, we're going to be talking to Jostein Hauge, but first, a word from some of our sponsors. You know, in the new year, I'm starting to think about like changing some of my habits and some of my daily routines and reducing my reliance on things like single-use plastic, especially as, you know, we start to think about the looming climate catastrophe. Well, Blue Land has already helped us wean our office off of single-use plastic, and I've already started to incorporate Blue Land and have, you know, with their little dishwasher pods in my life at home as well. And so I've made the switch to Blue Land for all the cleaning products in the office and probably like half in my home, especially as I've been going into the new year. And I love that their cleaning sprays and like their toilet bowl cleaner and their dishwasher and laundry detergent tablets are all, you know, clean and healthy. Blue Land is helping me build more sustainable habits at home. Certified by Cradle to Cradle, Blue Land products meet the highest standard of clean. They're effective yet gentle on people and the planet. From cleaning sprays to toilet bowl cleaner to dishwasher and laundry detergent tablets, Blue Land's 100% microplastic free, EPA safer choice certified formulas are safe to use around my cats, my plants in my apartment. I love not having to choose between a safe option and what actually gets my house clean. This really, the new year is a part of it, but once I got the cats, the two brothers, in August, it was like, okay, we got to rehaul our whole cleaning routine here. We got to make sure that these products are safe for the cats, and I feel really good about Blue Land being a part of that. Blue Land is on a mission to make it easy for everyone to make sustainable choices. We believe that hardworking, clean products can be the norm, not the exception, so that you can do better for your family and the planet at the same time. Blue Land products are independently tested to perform alongside major brands, and the formulas are free from dyes, parabens, and harsh chemicals. Blue Land is a certified B Corporation and certified cruelty-free by Leaping Bunny. Their formulas are EPA Safer Choice certified, and many have received the Gold Material Health Certificate from Cradle to Cradle, and Blue Land is trusted in over 1 million homes, including mine. Love those dishwasher tablets. Love the soap that we have here. We got the dish soap. We've got the hand soap. We've got the toilet bowl cleaner. We've really just kind of become a Blue Land office, and my home is also a Blue Land home as well. Blue Land has a special offer for our listeners. Right now, get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/majority. You won't want to miss this. Blueland.com/majority for 15% off. That's blueland.com/majority to get 15% off. Links down below in the video and episode descriptions and at majority.fm. Another cat-related product that I'd like to talk to you about, BoxyCat. Having a litter box, like, cats are pretty easy. I'm discovering this as a first-time cat owner in my life. But the litter box is definitely, the worst part. And especially if you're in a small apartment like this and not a ton of ventilation, you gotta be, if you're not using the right litter, really diligent about immediately scooping and getting rid of that stuff. But with Boxy, I got an answer for that. Boxy Pro has probiotics right in the litter that gobble up the odor-causing bacteria and keep the box continuously odor-free. Yes, continuously, not for 10 or 20 days, infinite days of continuous odor-freeness. I'm going to the office. My husband's at the office. We're leaving the cats at the apartment. We don't want to come home to an apartment that smells like cat poop. Seriously. BoxyCat.
I believe you.
Thank you. BoxyCat has helped us with this. Yes, you do have to scoop eventually, but Boxycat's cat's amazing clumping powder does brilliantly, and it allows it to be much easier to scoop. And you can also top off the box with it. Your cat also is not going to be smelling a lot either. There's no fake scents, which gives your cat a reason to avoid the box. BoxyCat does not have that. So it's been awesome for us. So if you're thinking of switching your litter, or if you're tired of switching your litter, and you're just looking for the one, get Boxy at BoxieCat.com. It's the last litter you'll switch to. Enjoy 30% off with code TMR at BoxyCat.com/TMR. That's BoxieCat.com/TMR. Link down below in the video and episode descriptions and at majority.fm. Enjoy 30% off with code TMR at BoxyCat.com/TMR. And lastly, Liquid IV has now, since I started working here, become a staple in my home. It's a staple for me when I travel. I take a stick with me, use it on the plane. Sam literally uses it every day. If you watched the show yesterday, you saw him frantically scramble to get his Liquid IV before the show started. Hydration is incredibly important, especially in these winter months. You got a lot of dry heat. You got a lot of just, I don't know. You sweat more actually in your coat than you do in the summer, I have been told. And so staying hydrated in the winter can be deceiving, but you got to do it. Your long days require superior hydration from start to finish. On those start early and end late days, Liquid IV helps you stay hydrated through optimized water absorption, and it is delicious. Liquid IV sugar-free is clinically demonstrated to hydrate faster than water alone, and right now you can get 20% off your first order with code MAJORITYREP at checkout. Liquid IV, the hydration multiplier sugar-free is essential. My husband loves it too. We're always having it in the apartment, and I like the acai. I like some of the fruitier ones. He's more into the lemon lime, so it works out pretty well. We divide and conquer with our Liquid IV consumption, and it helps you boost your hydration better than water alone. It has great stuff in it. It's electrolytes, essential vitamins. And you don't have to worry that you're drinking a bunch of gunk that other drinks might have that try to hydrate you. I'd like to thank Liquid IV for sponsoring this episode. Just 1 stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone, powered by Liquid IV Hydroscience, an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. Rehydrate with science-backed hydration from Liquid IV's Hydration Multiplier Sugar-Free. Tear, pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code MAJORITYREP at checkout. That's 20% off your first order with code MAJORITYREP at liquidiv.com. Link down below in the video and episode description and at majority.fm. Quick break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Jostein Hauge. We are back, and we are joined once again by Jostein Hauge, political economist and assistant professor in development studies at the Department of Politics and International Studies at Cambridge University. You can also read his newsletter, Global Currents. Jostein, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me back, Emma.
Of course. So Davos, pretty significant this year. You wrote in Global Currents, your newsletter last month about Trump's national security strategy, basically what this memo or publication that the administration had published about U.S. priorities around the world. That piece you put out in December, but I guess I'm wondering if you could connect that to what we saw at Davos over the past few days, because it appears to be a cementing of the Trump national security strategy, which is just like, we're going to isolate ourselves from the rest of the world and try to dominate our backyard.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring up the national security strategy, because I think more people should have a look at it. It's a very important document. Every presidential administration publishes one of those during their terms. So it's pretty important. And this one in particular, if you read it by Trump, you see clearly a language of domination, a language somewhat similar to traditional imperialism. You know, I'd like to say, after I've seen this document and also heard now Trump talk for a year into his second term, we're seeing kind of a shift from the type of imperialism we saw under more liberal administrations, where, you know, it was kind of hidden. There was talk about global cooperation and so on. And Trump is basically saying, I don't want that language anymore. I'm going to just say straight up that I'm going to take what I want in this world. And in the security strategy, it focuses a lot on Latin America. But sort of throughout the strategy, you see very clearly that it's not just about dominating Latin America. It's about interfering in Europe. It's about making sure that China doesn't arise as a competitor, although it's a bit late for that. So it's sort of an unapologetic language of imperialism and of global domination, and that's also something we saw in Davos in his speech.
And the idea that this is about curbing China's influence is a little shocking to me, because does the administration really think they can do this with just the force of U.S. military, and that's how they're going to try to impose their will on like trying to maintain hegemony? Because the exact opposite is happening here. You have Canada, and we saw Carney's speech, we played it yesterday, saying, to hell with this. We're going to go with the emerging power here and make plans for our economy that acknowledge that reality.
Yes, very much so. It's funny because for a while we were all talking about the trade war between US and China, and eventually we saw how Trump's tariffs and his trade policies backfired a lot, and in fact benefited China directly to some degree, in that China got more technologically independent and more speedily and hastily implemented measures to technologically advance various sectors. Well, now we're seeing another element of China sort of becoming a more important player in the world, and that is that other traditional allies of the US, because of Trump's erratic and volatile, and to be honest, narcissistic and childlike foreign policy, is turning traditional allies of the United States toward China. Carney is probably the prime example, and we saw that his recent visits to China, and they struck a trade deal with very few sort of antagonistic caveats that to some degree Europe still has with China. But I think we'll see more European countries follow as well. And this was something that Carney alluded to in his speech, that countries like Canada now need to be more realistic and cannot look to the United States any longer.
Can you expand upon that, and where Europe is relative to Canada here, and what Carney's plea entailed? Because there's this tension, of course, with the post-World War II international order, and we're seeing this is the end of that. And Gaza was really, I would say, the death blow, but we've been bleeding out since that point, and Carney finally acknowledged, hey, we're bleeding out. And it's like Europe's entanglement with the United States economically is very much tied into NATO and the security guarantees that the U.S. has provided, and the emotion around that is obviously, and the fears are heightened because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and NATO has added member states, and that makes rational sense for those states to join NATO for that reason. But it has been a unsustainable long-term project for Europe to continuously rely on the United States for security, but also being roped into U.S. imperialism and siding with the United States on things like Iraq and even Gaza, like having to kind of US policy. That appears to be something that seems to be cracking here.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to unpack here, but let me do it by looking at Carney's speech, because it was quite remarkable. And I think the way I interpreted it, he made two important points. The first is the admission of the death of the rules-based international order. And this rules-based international order has existed, supposedly for a long time, since the end of World War II, the start of the Bretton Woods Conference. These international organizations were supposed to have to ensure global cooperation. And Carney said this was in large part a facade, and that wealthy nations played along with this facade, or especially the middle powers, because it benefited them, and the US was spearheading this international order. I think first it's important to point out that it's quite remarkable, coming from a figure like Carney, who's been part of the liberal establishment, Goldman Sachs, Harvard, Oxford, this was maybe the last, in many ways, a so-called globalist, right? But he admits that the liberal international order was a facade. And Trump has also been critical of it. He's destroyed it in many ways and replaced it with traditional imperialism. The other important point here, and that, and then I'll take this more towards Europe and how Europe is a bit different from Carney and also similar. The other important point is about Trump and how Carney approaches the US and Trump. And he did not mention Trump specifically and strategically in his speech, but Carney has been very consistently against Trump in some ways. And there I think he has more integrity than the European countries. Because here we've seen, as you mentioned, Europe has been very careful about condemning Israel's actions in Gaza. They've been very careful about saying that Trump broke international law when he bombed Venezuela and kidnapped its head of state. But somehow, they are very forcefully telling Trump that he should not invade Greenland. So we're seeing that many of these big European leaders really only dare to stand up to Trump when he subjects them to the same kind of colonial mindset that they subjected to the rest of the world for centuries.
And the other part of it too, just to return to maybe the economic piece, is that the United States is a paper tiger right now economically. You've been writing for and done so much academic work on how technologically advanced China is, how far ahead they are, how a lot of this is obscured by the Western press. But this was a great thread that you retweeted here from Gabriel Zuckman about the United States economy. I just want to show some of these charts for people. This one's on the annual real growth of national income per adult in the United States. And so if you could just scroll up here a little bit up, actually. Just to, the idea that, the United States has pulled ahead economically isn't necessarily true. You can see that in annual real growth of national income per adult in the U.S., but then scroll down to the next part of the thread here. This other chart, income growth, that was the similar one that we just showed there. But GDP is also not where it's advertised at. And keep scrolling down here. Here, this one is what I wanted this to. Sorry, the GDP one. Annual real growth of productivity, GDP per hours worked. I need to see the caption, sorry. There it is. So you can see that the period from 1980 to 2010 is not what it was. It was much more productive from 1950 to 1980, much more productive in 1980 to 2010, and not the same there. And you can tack it to, there's a final chart here about income and wealth inequality. I just want to get to that. This is the big one. Look at this chart. When we're looking at GDP growth, this is the wealthiest 0.0001%. And I need to see this caption if you could scroll up here. Yeah. The one thing that is growing extremely fast is the wealth of the top billionaires. The top 0.00001% used to own the equivalent of 3% of national income in wealth in 2010. They now own the equivalent of 12% of national income in the United States. So even from 2010 to 2026, that has absolutely exploded from that time period. So when we're looking at the United States economy and tech is buoying it and AI and it's growing with these traditional economic metrics, it is not accounting for the fact that this is a big kind of speculative bubble and a lot of capital that's going towards speculation or investment in the stock market, but people's actual experiences are not reflecting that.
Yes. First, I think I like to say that Gabriel Zuckman, whose thread you just shared, he's done a lot of good work on this, and he also recently wrote an essay in the French newspaper Le Monde where he compares the European to the American economies, which touches upon a lot of the subjects you talk about here. So I really urge the audience to go and have a look at that. So, even if we were to accept that the US economy has grown GDP-wise slightly more than Europe, growth, as the inventor of GDP, Simon Kuznets, said, GDP growth is just a means to an end. So what has that achieved? And in the American economy, compared to a lot of other wealthy nations, as this chart showed, a lot more of the growth has gone to the top 1% or 0.1% or 0.0001%. This is, let me be clear, this has been a trend in many wealthy nations, more income inequality, that billionaires and the rich are capturing a larger share of growth. But in the United States, it's much more so. So this is why I think it's important to know in these discussions that, or when people say that, innovation is stronger in America, or tech is booming and we have the greatest tech companies. Yes, there's a lot of tech, but let's see how prosperous the American economy is as a whole. Here's a very important statistic. In the United States, the bottom 50% of the population own 1 to 2% of the total wealth. That is astonishingly bad and among the worst among the OECD economies. It has the lowest social mobility among all the OECD economies, and it has lower life expectancy than most OECD economies, even China now. Now, I'm not trying to say that all the other OECD economies are doing great and so on, but we need to understand that growth and big tech and so on, these are having huge corporations, having GDP growth, these are means to an end. And the end is not being achieved in the United States right now. So yes, as you say, the US economy is somewhat of a paper tiger and now being overshadowed increasingly by the Chinese economy.
So China now here, where's your assessment of their feeling or their standing here after Davos, but even maybe more notably after this deal with Canada? Do you foresee other European countries following suit here, and how is that going to impact with this kind of capricious, psychotic president here in the United States, our relationships with Europe economically?
Yes, I do think other European countries will follow suit, obviously, and this is also worth noting that the rest of the world have already preceded Carney. China works together with tons of countries across the global south already and has built relationships across the south for over 2 decades now. But it is, Macron has already alluded to wanting to attract Chinese investments. But now that we saw this clear deal between Canada and China, where Canada is working hard to attract more investments from China and establishing joint ventures with Chinese companies, and made tons of social media posts about the new partnership that Canada has with China, I do think we'll see more partnerships. And China is here not doing something radically new. China has been for a long time had a consistent strategy of trying to cooperate with as many countries as possible, and it does not have the intention of replacing the US as a global hegemon. I think it's important for people to know this. The one elephant in the room and the one issue that might prove tricky for European countries to cooperate more with China is Russia, because China does not have the same stance towards Russia that many Western European countries has. And China is, Russia shares a big border with China, and China prioritizes having a decent relationship with Russia. But China, honestly, the only thing China has to do is to act like the adult in the room when we have the president of the most powerful country in the world, debatable, of course, but when the president of the United States acts in this narcissistic, childlike manner, which we saw in Davos, they honestly have to do no more than just be the adult in the room, and that has been working well for China so far.
Lastly, are people overreacting to this Carney speech? We didn't get to it, and I think we will later in the show, but earlier today, Jared Kushner was at Davos and was speaking about his plan to carve up Gaza for a bunch of real estate developers. And so, of course, it's important to point out that the so-called rules-based international order very much died with the genocide in Gaza, but that doesn't, I think, take away from the significance of Western leaders acknowledging that death. And do you find that do you think that what happened with Carney's speech and what occurred at Davos here is as historically significant as perhaps is being reported?
I think the speech will be remembered as one of the most important speeches, at least in this decade. Now, if the speech will actually translate to a new practice of a new world order, like the one Carney envisions, we have yet to see. Will we see middle powers building alliances like Carney alludes to and wants in his speech? We have yet to see. I want to say that because I've seen some people saying, yes, middle powers now need to, maneuver more strategically in a more realistic way with respect to the great powers, the US, China, and Russia. Building a cooperation and a partnership with the US is very different from building a cooperation and partnership with China. And I think it's important to know that. And that's something we've definitely seen in the last year. But still, we're seeing the death of the rules-based order. It's the law of the jungle. A lot of countries are now delinking somewhat from the United States, but the United States still has tremendous power, and Trump is trying to show that. He's not getting popularity on the world stage by showing that, and certainly not with his Gaza peace plan. And to be honest, I saw that clip by Jared Kushner, and I thought, how is this any different from traditional colonialism?
Yeah.
I really struggle to see the difference there. They're coming in there, Kushner's trying basically say, this is what we have planned. This is what we want to do. Why are you supposed to shape the future of the people of Gaza? And this is someone who's for a long time has had very close relationships, a very close relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu, who's wanted by the International Criminal Court for war crimes and committing and leading a genocide in Gaza. Yeah. This is absurd to me. So we'll have to see.
Law of the jungle is right. Jostein Hauge, thank you so much for your time today. Always appreciate your insights, and everybody should check out your newsletter, Global Currents. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Emma.
Quick break, folks, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Claire Valdez, candidate for New York's 7th Congressional District. We are back, and we're so happy to be joined now by Claire Valdez, New York State Assemblyperson representing the 37th District in Queens, and now candidate for New York's 7th Congressional District. Claire, welcome to the show. So happy to have you.
Very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Representative Velasquez is retiring. This is one of the bluest districts in the country. So why the hell not run a socialist? I mean, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. You are correct. This is one of the most progressive, if not the most progressive district in the country. It's a congressional district that voted for over 40% for Zoran Mamdani in last year's primary election. Very primed for the kind of mass politics that our movement represents. First and foremost, I'm a labor organizer. I come out of the UAW. I was a member of Local 2110 and a shop steward. I organized alongside my coworkers for better contracts and to know our rights as union members. And this is something that is so needed right now in our federal government and in Congress, where very few congressional members have any direct relationship to the labor movement, and certainly very few have been union members. And the reason we've seen this incredible concentration of wealth at with the 1% and this crushing oligarchy is because there's been a decades-long war on organized labor. I'm running for Congress to change that.
You, a day after you announced your campaign for New York 7th Congressional District, you were endorsed not by Zoran Mamdani and also, though, Sean Fain, the president of the UAW. Can you speak a little bit more about your work with the UAW and what the lessons you learned from the labor movement have been?
Absolutely. So a lot of my life I've spent working customer service jobs, low-wage jobs, like many Americans. And at no point in my life had I felt as powerless as I did then, on my feet, working hours and hours for terrible wages. When I joined UAW, that completely changed. I found power in my union. I was a member of our bargaining committee at Columbia University, bargaining against this multi-billion-dollar institution for better wages that I and the 500 clerical workers and call center workers who make Columbia run but are often forgotten about deserve. I was a member of, I helped campaign for Sean Fain when he ran in 2022. Under his leadership, we've seen the UAW transform. It's an incredibly democratic union. He led the stand-up strikes in 2023. And it's a really inspiring moment for organized labor. UAW was out in front calling for a ceasefire early in the genocide in Gaza, which is very much in line with their long history of social justice work and international solidarity. And UAW taught me what power can look like and how we can win it.
You mentioned the genocide in Gaza. You have been unequivocal in your condemnation of that. I want to ask you more specific policy questions in just a second, but I read in your interview in Jacobin that you were radicalized by the war in Iraq. That is how I would also describe my kind of political trajectory. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because there was this insistence in the last election that people don't really vote on foreign policy. And we showed that unfortunately, now that we have a fascist in office, it's quite clear that that was not the case. So what was important to you about the war in Iraq and your political trajectory?
Yeah, so I grew up in Lubbock, Texas, very conservative part of Texas. And seeing the invasion of Iraq as a young person really radicalized me. Just knowing that billions of US dollars were going to attack a civilian population in an unjustified war, in a war that was not proven to be needed. And it changed the way that I thought about US foreign policy and our role in it. I saw that we were going to war for massive profits, for oil profits, and to keep this, military industrial complex machinery going. And it was really horrible to see, but like many millennials, I was radicalized in that moment and continued being an anti-war activist for the rest of my life. And so, when the genocide began over 2 years ago in Gaza, I was unequivocal in saying it is a genocide, that we need an immediate ceasefire, and that the U.S. cannot be complicit in bombing civilians and destroying refugee camps. We have to put an end to it.
And in terms of if you were to get into Congress, you would support an arms embargo both defensively and offensively?
Absolutely. I think there's no appetite for our tax dollars going to uphold a government that has shown very little respect for Palestinian human rights.
Love to hear it. Can you speak a little bit more about DSA and New York specifically, how important that's been to, your role in the assembly, but also just organizing in this city? I know that there's somebody else currently running in your district, Antonio Reynoso, who the Brooklyn Borough president, not a DSA member, and there's been some sort of kind of intra-progressive infighting about this very topic. I mean, I'll editorialize and say, like, I mean, DSA success is so unequivocal that the idea that we should be fighting about this kind of stuff seems insane to me. But that it seems to be that, you know, there's New York DSA, and there's still like kind of an older political establishment within the Democratic Party that has some issues with that. So just if you could expand on the differences between you and Reynoso, your opponent in this primary.
Yeah, and since you asked about DSA, I'll just say I've been a member of New York City DSA for almost 7 years now. The process that we're going through now with the endorsement is this kind of long and very democratic process, but it's exactly the thing that brought me into the organization. Feeling trusted as an everyday working class person to make, you know, strategic decisions and considerations. That's how we build our movement, and that's how we deepen our democracy and our society. So this is always my favorite time of year, endorsement season. But it's that movement that I think distinguishes myself and my opponent. I come out of the same movement that brought us Zoran Mamdani. He and I have a lot of similar experience organizing within DSA, starting off just knocking doors and then being field leads, field coordinators, growing in leadership. And that's exactly what good campaigns can do, is develop organic leaders who gain confidence and strategic insights into the way that everyday working people can be powerful. It's about recognizing the power in each other to change the world and change our conditions. And so that's the movement that I hope to bring that I've been, you know, organizing with in Albany as a state assembly member, and that I want to bring to Washington, D.C. Building our democracy and really making working people feel that they are part of upholding it is going to be so essential as we take on, as you said, this fascist administration that wants to gut due process, voting rights, workers' rights, and we have to be on the front lines of defending it.
How would you act in Congress to say protect your community from ICE? And, you know, hopefully, if you end up being the nominee, you would be a part of Democrats, knock on wood, taking back the House. That's the hope. That I would imagine that there could be some tools at your disposal to help protect your community. What do you see as your role as a member of Congress in that sphere?
Yeah, we have to, I mean, the first step is we have to abolish ICE. This is an agency that has become, you know, funded by billions and billions and billions of dollars, and militarized, and is now running roughshod over our basic democratic rights all over the country. ICE has just told its agents that they do not need to present warrants in order to open people's doors. It's blatantly unconstitutional, an attack on all of our fundamental freedoms. Not even to mention that they are now openly murdering protesters and bystanders on the street in broad daylight on film. It's an agency that cannot exist anymore, and it should absolutely be abolished. In my office in the Assembly, we've been organizing Know Your Rights trainings, attending rallies and marches, and really demonstrating that everyday working people can come out and stand for their neighbors in moments when they might not feel safe to do so. And so I think really public demonstrations of support saying that this agency cannot exist anymore and that we need critical funding to make sure that all of our neighbors who might have to go through these immigration proceedings have representation, which is proven to help them navigate these systems and bring them back home safely. So first of all, abolish, but then there are a lot of other tools at our disposal to make sure that our immigrant neighbors are protected and have the same dignity that every single person in this country deserves.
Lastly, of course, rent, tenant protections. I know you've done work in that area, but we're hopefully, Zoran Mamdani's beginning to make some progress. The rent is still too damn high here, but on a federal level, you know, we have, there were a few years ago, Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez were trying to revive efforts to repeal the Faircloth Amendment, for example, which has, for people that don't know, it's a over 25-year moratorium on federal funding for public housing, which is a relic and should be done away with at the bare minimum. But just, you know, that's one thing that comes to mind for me. What would you support on the federal level to address the housing crisis?
Yeah, I mean, bringing up the Fair Cloth Amendment is a great place to start. It has to be repealed. It is ridiculous that we're not able to build more public housing, and it's a shame on our society that our public housing has been left to fall into disrepair over generations. And it's a public entitlement that, like so many others, Medicaid, Social Security, SNAP benefits that are being undercut by this federal administration, but far beyond that, too. Our public housing should be the jewel of our society, and it should be abundant. People should be able to live in it long term. So repealing Fair Cloth Amendment is a great place to start. Fully funding our existing public housing. Here in New York City, we have many NYCHA developments that have been left to without repairs, without good funding for a long time. Fully funding those developments is also priority number one. And then building social housing. Representative Ocasio-Cortez carries the Homes Act to develop more social housing in the United States. I was part of a delegation to Barcelona in 2024, where we got to see models of beautiful social housing that is permanently affordable and democratically controlled by its tenants. And we can have that here. These models already exist, but we're up against, in New York City especially, just a rich and rapacious real estate industry that has been fighting tooth and nail to make sure that they are making as much profit as possible off of our need for safe and stable housing. And we have to take on those corporate interests.
Absolutely. Just got to say, we have an IM. Noah, the intern's mom, says, please give the candidate greetings from a fellow socialist who grew up in Lubbock. Hard place to be a lefty. I'm now in Portland, Oregon. I'm not familiar with that town, but it sounds like you are.
I am deeply familiar, and it is a very hard place to be a lefty, but we get through it. And no matter where you are in this country, you can be a lefty and fight for justice.
Absolutely. Claire, where can people support your campaign, and how would you best suggest that they do?
Yeah, you can donate and get involved at clairevaldezforcongress.com. We'll be knocking doors very soon and love getting out the word to our neighbors. So come along, join the campaign.
Appreciate you, Claire. Claire Valdez, candidate for Congress, who is running in New York's 7th Congressional District. More socialist representation from my good state of New York would be phenomenal. So thanks so much for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Really appreciate you. Solidarity forever. Thanks, y'all.
Agreed. Thanks so much, folks. Well, not going to run right into the fun half. Going to wrap up the free part of this show and head into the fun half in just a second. But as we mentioned earlier, this show relies on your support. We just hit 2 million subscribers. Amazing stuff. But that could go away if, say, the authoritarian Trump administration decides that we're too terroristy. So if you could go to jointhemajorityreport.com, become a member, you can IM the show. That would be excellent. Matt had to step out a little earlier, but we have... do we have a promotion for the Jacobin show, Brian?
No, I think he's recording that now, but
right.
The most recent Left Reckoning, I pulled it up. It's they were joined by Judith Norman and Alex Burnell to break down James Telrico's recent controversial statements on funding Israel's defensive weapons.
Yes. Check out that episode. Also check out the Jacobin show. And then we'll also say, just a reminder, I am going to be moderating David Griscom's book talk, the launch of his book in New York City. And that is going to be, as I pull up my calendar on my screen here, gotta type in calendar. Okay, here we go. That will be on the 25th of February. And so if you'd like to attend, we have the link somewhere. We'll put it in the description down below. But you can also pre-order David Griscom's book, The Myth of Red Texas. Really honored that he asked me to blurb that book, and also that he asked me to moderate this. Very, very sweet. And also the book is really great. So check that out. Check out the Jacobin show. Check out Left Reckoning. Soon we will be joined by Brandon Binder, but they're taking their sweet ass time. So yeah, we'll just go into the fun half and we will see you there. We will take your calls and read your IMs. See you on the other side.
Okay, Emma, please.
Well, I feel that my voice is sorely lacking on the majority report.
Wait. Look, Sam is unpopular.
I do deserve a vacation at Disney World. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome Emma to the show.
It is Thursday.
Yeah, I think you need to take over for Sam.
Yes, please.
No. I'm gonna pause you right there.
Wait, what?
You can't encourage Emma to live like this. And I'll tell you why. So was offered a tour, sushi, and poker with the boys. Tour, sushi, and poker with the boys. So was offered a tour, sushi, and poker with the boys. What? Tour, sushi, and poker.
Tim's upset.
Tour, sushi, and poker with the boys. So was offered a tour, sushi, and
that's what we call the biz.
Tour, sushi, and poker with the boys.
Right.
Tour, sushi, and poker.
We're gonna get demonetized.
I just think that what you did to Tim Pool was mean.
Free speech.
That's not what we're about here. Look at how sad he's become now. You shouldn't even talk about it. I think you're responsible.
I probably am in a certain way, but let's get to the meltdown here.
Tour, sushi, and poker with the boys.
Oh my God.
Tour,
wow.
Sushi.
I'm sorry, I'm losing my fucking mind.
So was offered a tour, sushi, and poker with the boys.
Logic.
Tour, sushi, and poker with the boys. Boy. Tour.
I think I'm like a little kid. I think I'm like a little kid. I think I'm like a kid.
Tour.
I think I'm like a little kid. I think I'm like a little kid.
Had this debate 7,000 times.
A little kid. I think I'm like a little kid. I think I'm like a kid.
Tour. I'm losing my fucking mind.
Some people just don't understand.
So I'm not trying to be a dick right now, but like, I absolutely think the U.S. should be providing me with a wife and kids.
That's not what we're talking about here. Okay, all right.
It's not a fun job.
Tour.
That's a real thing. That's a real thing. Real thing.
Willy Wonka tour.
That's a real thing. That's a real thing. Real thing.
What's that offered a tour?
That's a real thing. That's a real thing. Real thing. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. Real thing.
What's that offered a tour?
Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Rogan has done it again.
That offered a tour?
That's a real thing. That's
poker with the boys.
I think he might be blowing it out of proportion.
Real thing.
That's poker with the boys. That offered a tour?
That's a real thing. That's
poker.
Let's go, Joe.
Tour, sushi, and poker with the boys.
Take it easy, Dan.
Tour, sushi, and poker.
Things have really gotten out of hand.
Sushi and poker with the boys.
Delusional.
Tour,
Deluded.
sushi.
You don't have a clue as to what's going on. Live YouTube.
Sam has like the weight of the world on his shoulders. Sam
Sam
doesn't want to do this show anymore. It was so much easier when the majority report was just you. You were happy.
Let's change the subject.
Rangers and Knicks are doing great.
Now shut up. You don't want people saying reckless things on your program.
That's
Now,
one of the most difficult parts about this show.
this is the pro-killing podcast.
I'm thinking maybe it's time we bury the hatchet.
Left is best. Trump Violet.
Tour,
Don't be foolish and don't fucking tweet at me and don't bitch. The way Emma has cucked all of these people, love it.
That's where my heart is. So I wrote my honors thesis about it.
Oh, she
finance.
wrote an honest thesis. I guess I should hand the main mic to you now.
You are to the right of me on foreign policy.
We already fund Israel, dude. Are you against that?
That's a tougher question I have an answer to.
Incredible theme song.
Hi, Bumbler.
Emma Vigeland, absolutely one of my favorite people. Actually, not just in the game, like period.
We are back, folks. It is... you got me with the headroom. It is the fun half of the majority report, and we now have our friends. Brandon, Binder. What's up, you guys?
Hey, how are you?
Yeah.
I'm so ready for fun.
All right, let's have some fun. We tried to call into the phones and the computer's not working again. So,
The
what's
fun's
happening?
getting started early.
Yes, I know. I went over, but early for you guys, I guess. Sometimes I'll go all the way to 1:30 with my little interviews.
Yeah,
so,
I was just saying how I'm used to
No,
you
they're
going
great.
long now. I'm used to you going long now. So I check in. I usually watch just to be sure. And then the one day I don't watch because I was doing something else, that's when you decide to start on time. My bad.
Yep.
Actually, sometimes I get so engrossed in the interview that I'm like waiting to start, but I forget to click like join.
See, I like Brandon's answer a lot more than Binder's.
The chat can tell you. The chat can tell you. I'm like chatting with them, like watching the show, and they're like, "Brandon, you need to be on." And I'm like, "Whoa, you're right."
Well, I mean, look, flattery is the best way so you get the gold star today, Brandon.
Thank you.
And
he thought this one
practicing
out. He practiced this one a few times in a mirror or something.
well,
Yeah.
you know what? He gets to introduce what he's doing on his show first. What's happening on the discourse, Brandon?
That's how you get preferential treatment. Well, I mean, everything's happening on the discourse. We're still doing our morning show, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern, over on YouTube and Twitch at the Discourse with Brandon. And I would suggest joining right now because we are only 750 subscribers away from 15,000 on YouTube, which feels like a big number. Definitely is a big number to me because I'm not very, good with math. So if you join now, I'm willing to give you this gift. The gift that I'm willing to give the next 750 subscribers is the gift of joining the discourse, the enlightenment and knowledge, secret knowledge that comes with being a member of the show. And there can be no better gift. So I would say, join today. You get to be in on the ground floor.
I love, you can just tell that you watch so much conspiracy content by using the term secret knowledge.
My favorite.
Yeah.
My favorite conspiracy term that I've learned recently is high strangeness. That sounds pretty good.
I just like how you do the show now at 9 a.m. So it sounds like, oh man, Brandon's waking up bright and early, getting that show ready, prepping in the early
Really
morning
impressive.
hours. But it turns out, for people who don't recall, Brandon is overseas, which means it's really lunchtime when he's doing the show.
It's mid-afternoon. Oh my gosh. You've just revealed how time zones work for those of us who don't believe in the spherical model of the earth.
Hey, when you're listening to a lot of conspiratorial content, that's actually the type of person you run across. I'm sure you know, Brandon.
We've been getting into gang stalking recently. Have you ever been gang stalked or a gang stalker? Because honestly, the way they talk about it, it sounds fun. Not being gang stalked, but being part of like the team. The team
Well, it's
that
a group activity.
Yeah, that Truman Show somebody.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. Group activities are also, I mean, I would say leftist mafia is a group activity. What's happening with you? I'm a professional.
Yeah, speaking of group activities, get gang stalked tonight at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time at youtube.com/MattBinder with leftist mafia.
Yes. All right. Sounds good, folks. Let's we'll read some IMs and then we'll do some clips here. Hey, Barbie said Minnesota needs an eviction moratorium because people are scared to go to work. This should be such an obvious thing to do. Calling on Tim Walz here. There should be more being done, it appears. Lots of tools at their disposal. Mini psychologist says weather is going to be ridiculously cold for the big day. Forecasted high temp for tomorrow is -8 degrees Fahrenheit. These Joker agents don't know this kind of cold. We're ready for tomorrow. They are not. Love you guys. Left is best. Hell yeah. Sam's gold digging cat. We need to prosecute these child trafficking thugs. Sick to my stomach. Yup. Jake in Minneapolis, a bit behind, but care is pronounced care just in case it ever comes back up. Okay, care with a K. The local news. All right, well, it's a local news affiliate. I don't know if it will ever come back up, but appreciate it. Thank you. The People's Eyebrow. When Emma said liquid IV, I was thinking Z-Biotics and wondered why it would have become a staple drink after starting work at MR. Well, why not both? Floridians for Emma. Emma, your necklace is really nice and pretty. Can I know where you got it and if I will break my bank account to get it for myself? Well, it's my dad got this for my mom, and then they got divorced and my mom gave it to me. So I don't know where it came from.
Reading that proves you don't read ahead.
I do not read ahead. Yes.
I honestly thought you were going to be like, well, I got it decades ago at Claire's, if you must know. Okay.
Yeah. Nope. This was it's a nice necklace. I wear it every day, and I only have it because my mom gave it away to me for that reason. Love you, Mom. Okay. Noah from Tampa, on random parts of the day in Lubbock, the smell of fertilizer processing plants, he picked up wind, and literally the whole town will smell like poop. Okay. All right.
Thank you for that.
John from T-Burg. Oh, we see how it is. Channel gets to 2 million subscribers, and suddenly, without precedent, the phones aren't working. Pretty soon we'll be hearing all about how the Kalshi odds are more important to get to than phone calls. Floridians for Emma. I'm so sorry for asking. My bad. No, I think it's funny. I like to talk about that stuff. I just try to keep it off air, where I just rail about my personal life to Brian and then come on air and say nothing.
It's very true. Sam too.
Sometimes it's fun. Yeah. We're all just, it's a big stew here.
Executive therapist.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you, Brian. All right, let's just don't fall.
I'm in Matt's chair, and it's not an easy chair to sit in. It's one of the more challenging chairs.
Yeah.
Because he's like 7
one of
foot
the more
8, so it's like for tall
challenging
people.
chairs.
It's a tall person chair.
Yeah. Also, everything in here is broken. So let's just quickly do this. Earlier today, Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of the President of the United States, spoke at Davos to outline his Board of Peace plans for Gaza, aka the colonial carve-up of Palestinian territory for real estate developers. Here he is at Davos. I mean, it's amazing. Like he stepped back from his formal role in the administration, and Ivanka did too. Like, they're not as involved in Trump 2.0 because it was so embarrassing for them the first time. But Kushner's like, okay, but I'm still the Zionist that had Benjamin Netanyahu sleep in my childhood bed when I was growing up. So I'll just do this little side project of the ethnic cleansing. How fun. Here he is explaining what this plan is for the people of Gaza. As we talk about democracy around the world, maybe less this administration, the people of Gaza seem to have no input in this plan.
We've developed ways to redevelop Gaza. Gaza, as President Trump's been saying, has amazing potential, and this is for the people of Gaza, and we've developed it into zones. In the beginning, we were toying with the idea of saying, let's build a free zone, and then we have a Hamas zone. And then we said, you know what, let's just plan for catastrophic success. Hamas signed a deal to demilitarize. That is what we are going to enforce. People ask us what our plan B is. We do not have a plan B. We have a plan. We signed an agreement. We are all committed to making...
When you say free zone and Hamas zones, okay, I just want to translate this for a second, because they've already done this carve-up that he's describing. This is called the yellow line. More than 50%, I think it's around 53%, of the Gaza Strip is currently under Israeli control. It is basically the western part of this 141 square mile parcel of land. Israel has taken over that area and is shooting anybody that crosses this invisible line into what they are now claiming is their territory, the Hamas free zone. The under 50%, the stuff that is closer to the sea, is where Palestinians are living in tents, babies are freezing to death, and the Israeli government, as of yesterday, just killed 3 journalists. I'm actually not sure where that was in the Strip, but regardless, they're continuing to bomb and have violated this so-called ceasefire hundreds and hundreds of times since it was agreed to in October. So what he's admitting here is, no, this is not like a permanent division of the Strip with this yellow line. He's like, why the hell not? We'll make it all a Hamas-free zone, meaning we want the whole Gaza Strip. That's my translation of what he's saying there. But let's keep going.
A plan B. We have a plan. We signed an agreement. We are all committed to making that agreement work. There's a master plan. We'll be doing it in phasing. In the Middle East, they build cities like this in 2-3 million people. They build this in 3 years, and so stuff like this is very doable if we make it happen.
Can we pause this for a sec? Here you can see. Look at this. They've divided this up. Rafah 1. I mean, they're building up, in their view, Rafah and Khan Yunis with, they say, a coastal tourism, 180 towers, mixed use. You see that purple line there? That's the coastline.
It's also
180 towers, like Miami high rises. That's what they're planning.
Yeah, definitely. But also it's worth noting that when he says they build this sort of thing in 3 years, he's referring to like the slave labor that they use in places like Saudi Arabia to build like Neom the line. So not only is this going to be the, result of ethnic cleansing, but likely there's going to be like some sort of forced labor component to constructing it so quickly.
Exactly. That's a great point. And you heard him describe it as a master plan. It's like they don't even, do they have an awareness of how villainous they sound or not? Because that's how like a supervillain in a movie would describe their plans.
I mean, I'm just happy that the background where he was talking, it said board of peace. So we all knew exactly how they were spelling board. Because I wasn't sure at first if they were just board of peace.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm really glad they named it the Board of Peace, because if they didn't name it the Board of Peace, I would be thinking this is terrible. This is like ethnic cleansing. This is genocidal. This is like evil. But because it's called the Board of Peace, I'm like, hello, Brandon. Obviously, this is like a good idea. This is like a peaceful and just and moral thing to do.
Yeah, I'm glad that they gave us those verbal cues. And we also now have the visual cue of Trump possessing the Nobel Peace Prize, because we could have thought, he's guilty of numerous war crimes, complicit in the genocide in Gaza, bombing random people on boats, threatening to invade sovereign countries, bombing Venezuela against international law. But he has the Peace Prize. So it's kind of over for that line of argument.
It really is Orwellian. People say that about a lot of stuff, usually, like sometimes incorrectly, but the kind of board of peace doublespeak thing, very Orwellian, very, V for Vendetta, very like dystopian in the way it's presented. It's obviously clumsier than any of those things because it's not written by like a professional author. It's like a Donald Trump invention, but it really is very, dark. It's very dark and heavy.
Yep. Absolutely. Let's just let Kushner outline his totally benevolent master plan.
We'll start with, this will show a lot of workforce housing. We think this could be done in 2-3 years. We've already started removing the rubble and doing some of the demolition. And then New Gaza. It could be a hope. It could be a destination, have a lot of industry.
I'm sorry. They've already started removing the rubble. Do you know how many bodies they're probably disposing of? Like, I'm serious here. We've talked to people. We've talked to folks who have been in Gaza. The former Green Beret whistleblower, Aguilar, told us that you just open your window when you're there and you hear people screaming and suffocating to death under rubble. There are hundreds of thousands of people unaccounted for. So when they're removing the rubble, when you know that there are that many people unaccounted for who are presumed crushed to death, suffocated to death under rubble, they're also removing the bodies. This is covering up the crimes of the genocide, and Kushner's talking about this with Board of Peace behind him.
That the people there can thrive, have great employment. Once this starts going, we think there should be 100% full employment and opportunity for everybody there.
Looks like shit.
And we have a lot of data on what can be, but we think that this really gives the Gazan people an opportunity to live their aspirations. But it all starts with security, and it all starts with governance.
Colonialism throughout history has relied upon the presentation of the colonized people as too savage to govern themselves. Just keeping that in mind when you hear this rich boy, son of a corrupt criminal rich guy, real estate developer, who went to prison for trying to, and I think successfully, entrapping his brother-in-law and having sex with a sex worker so he could use it as blackmail against his brother-in-law, married to his sister, you know? That's the kind of guy that Jared Kushner's father was. Did go to jail for that. His son is now speaking for the people of Gaza and what those savages should like, which is apparently some sort of, like, I don't know, uglier Miami Beach?
It's Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, that's better.
It looks like.
Yep. And to Brandon's point about the slave labor, seems like that's what it's going to be, right?
Yeah, and you know, permanent second-class citizen status for the formerly Gazan residents.
Yep. I mean, the Israelis need people to wash their clothes and to do the labor. I mean, that's already, by the way, when Israel pretends like they're not an ethno-state because they have a small Palestinian minority within the official boundaries of Israel. That's how those Palestinians are treated as second-class citizens. This is just about cementing that reality. And then, I mean, and ethnically cleansing them. And if you want to stay, you can help build our high-rises and serve us our meals. So,
Brandon, are you familiar with aliens? Are you what kind of alien does Jared Kushner? Is it a tall gray? Is that what I'm thinking of? Are you familiar?
Oh my gosh, a tall gray. Well, I'm not sure if tall gray are like neutral or if they're evil aligned. No, I am actually sure because there are 10 species of gray and actually 8 of them are evil and 2 of them are like kind of all right. But you're not supposed to paint them with a broad brush because not all of them are evil, but just like 80% of them.
But physically, yet he resembles them, right?
I mean, physically, I think he is just kind of off-putting in the way that like young Sheldon is in The Big Bang Theory, just like a really put-together child.
Yeah,
and you kind of get that like that kind of Mandark from Dexter's Laboratory vibe from him. Like this is like an evil baby. This is like an evil boss baby who just like loves destabilizing the Middle East and like negotiating deals for like the Saudi sovereign like wealth fund and stuff like that. Like it's uncanny, I think is what it feels like. But aliens, I don't know. You know, aliens I think do a better job of blending in than a lot of our billionaire class do. Because like they have the confidence because like they're like, I'm human, I don't need to blend in. I take my blood. Blah, like
yeah. Right. I mean, the good version of this like put together child is the Dakota Fanning character from Uptown Girls, right? I don't know, no one else. You've seen it. You've seen it. She's the good version of the adult child. Young Sheldon is the scary version of the adult child. Like, you know too much and your plans are measured in centuries and they're not good ones. That's how I feel about him. But I just don't think Kushner's smart enough to be that diabolical.
No.
I think he's just a Nepo case. I think they're all just like, they're being handed things by the military-industrial complex. The military-industrial complex, this is like the entertainment arm of that. Like the settling of Gaza into like a resort town, into like another Ibiza is just part of whitewashing what is the, surveillance state for the military-industrial complex. Like our military aspirations in the Middle East are embodied by Israel, and getting more of this, this resort stuff there, getting more tourists and people to feel very invested in Israel as another place to go, just like they're invested in Dubai, is essential to getting them to be invested in the military-industrial complex's aims and the protection of this ethno-religious, apartheid state in the Middle East. And so, obviously some people are going to get rich off this, but just like, indoctrinating every Israeli into the IDF is part of the project of getting them invested in the state. This will just get a lot of people who are looking for a cheap vacation, a cheap beach to, get invested. I don't know how many people are going to go because it would be, honestly, it would be
You're on the skulls of children.
It would be so grim, but people don't give a shit. I'm sorry.
People don't. Well, look at the Israelis. Israel's covering up the fact that there actually has been somewhat of an exodus from Israel with a lot of people that have dual citizenship. We don't know how extensive that is, but what, not to be too pessimistic about it, Brandon, but maybe people our generation are not going to want to go to this, like the Miami Beach on the carcasses of babies that are probably still decomposing. But in 20 years, that's how this stuff happens. That's how this stuff happens. Yeah.
Enough influencers, enough, you put a soccer stadium, a football stadium there. You have the World Cup there. You have the Olympic Games there. People will just make excuses. Well, you can't not go to the World Cup. I got to report on it. I got to talk about it. And so, I think it's really easy to understand how this gets relaundered into like the respectable Western civilized world as just like a bad thing that happened that ultimately led to like a good thing that is like the Israeli state. But hopefully because of, mass media, we're just not able to like allow that to happen, right? People have a longer term memory than I get the used to for stuff like this. And I think you're seeing that in the way people are resisting Venezuela, right? The way people are resisting Venezuela is very rooted in the narratives learned from the Iraq War. And maybe those wouldn't be so, I don't know, well remembered if we didn't have so many people like yelling about them on social media now.
Right. And you heard Kushner there say, quote, "There is no plan B." What he's essentially saying is that there's no pretense of self-determination for the people of Gaza. You accept this or we bomb you. We'll keep bombing you anyway. But you accept our development, our so-called reconstruction on your sovereign territory, or we bomb you. That's what the plan is from the Board of Peace. Big Up says people of Gaza is deliberately vague. It could mean anyone. It doesn't necessarily include Palestinians. In fact, in Kushner's master plan, there's probably zero room for, quote, Arabs.
Yeah, he very specifically did not say Palestine or Palestinians.
Yep.
Oh, they never say that though. So this is part of the course. This isn't something new. Yeah.
They pretend that it's not a thing. Jeet Here's Smoke Alarm says Kushner is a xenomorph. Sorry, I meant xenophobe. I don't know what xenomorph is, but maybe someone could.
The alien.
Okay, gotcha.
The alien's the xenomorph.
Okay, sorry.
Is that the Scientology guy?
No.
That's Xenu, isn't it?
Yeah, close. Science is Political. ICE is reportedly looking at a 10,000 person capacity facility in Belton, Missouri. The only infrastructure we get are prisons and concentration camps. Pretty much. Tim pulls Beanie. Will Mark Carney be walking away from his role on the redeveloping Gaza board as a part of his break from the U.S.? I didn't know he was on that board, but should be. Should be.
Don't misinterpret the show talking about how important his speech was don't conflate that with loving Mark Carney.
Right. No. It's a marker and it's I think we can both underscore that the speech about the rules-based international order being broken, ruptured, is accurate, and also too late, and not recognizing when the rupture actually occurred. Like both things can be true. Tennessee Wiley, winter storm coming through the South this weekend. All the grocery stores have been picked clean since Tuesday. Would love to not experience food shortage anytime there's a mild weather event, but this only happens in socialist countries, right? Good point. Dave from Talon, master plan. They may as well just call it the final solution for Gaza. Pretty much. Pancake, how can I get my divorced mom to give me the necklace now? All right. Let's what should we do here? I'm gonna take a look at the sound sheet.
I like number 10.
Number 10? Okay, let's do that. David Sachs, friend of Joe Rogan. Also a AI crypto billionaire.
Of course.
Also part of the Trump administration.
Right. The crypto czar and the AI czar. I forgot about this.
You said friend of Joe Rogan, so that's implied. Like,
exactly.
Tech billionaire.
Every friend of Joe Rogan is in the Trump administration. I mean,
pretty much.
He's literally friends with Kushner too.
Right. So basically, the Trump administration just culled from the mothership green room, and that's who's running the country now. And David Sachs is a little scared. He's a little afraid. This is about what Ro Khanna has proposed, right?
Yeah, the one-time 5% billionaire tax.
Yes. So for people that don't know, Ro Khanna has been talking about a 5% tax on billionaires and has been accurately describing this as kind of like the bare minimum or the anti-revolution measure, because we need a lot more than 5% taxes on billionaires. We should have a cap on the amount of wealth that you can get. I mean, my view is, hey, $999 million, at least, you know, this is more practical. If we wanted to be more revolutionary, this would not be my stance. But like, I think politically it's salient right now to say, like, you can have $999 million. You can't have $1 billion.
I agree. It should be illegal to have $1 billion. If we shouldn't even take the money. If you get there, we should put you in jail.
Yeah, right. Like, you've got to stay under a certain threshold here, right?
It's up to you. If you make it, it's your problem.
It's like a pinball machine. Like, you don't just hit it too hard. You've got to be a little bit more strategic. You only pull out 80% of the pin to get it to go the right way. Don't go hard. You can't get $1 billion.
Be afraid.
Be afraid.
Be afraid to be rich.
You know who's afraid to be rich? Well, David Sachs on CNBC here, speaking with the Squawk and Box, and I don't know what that was. And here he is saying how afraid he is.
It was the Vigeland coming out right there.
Well, it's very Nordic looking.
Squawk and Box.
Squawk and Box. Hey, I'm feeling a lot of Norwegian pride ever since we all conspired to take away the Nobel Prize from Donald Trump.
I've been in California for 30 years. It was painful to leave. I had no problem paying one of the highest taxes in the country. I think it's 13.3%. But this is different. This is not a tax. This is an asset seizure. This is saying that we're going to take 5% of everything you own, whether you're paid up on your taxes or not, whether your assets are realized or unrealized. Never been anything like this before in American history. People are trying to minimize it by saying it's a one-time. It's not a one-time.
That truly is something different. It's different in the last 250 years.
It's different. It's not a one-time. It's a first time. And if they get away with it, there'll be a second time and a third time. And this will be the beginning of something in this country, which is asset seizure.
Now he's spitting.
Whenever a state or a majority decides,
Can you pause it for a sec? I love the idea that it's asset seizure to tax you. Like, you guys already can hide all of this stuff overseas. You already have... Go ahead, Brandon.
I don't like the micromanage. He can call it that if he wants to. It's fine. Yeah, let's seize those assets. We can go whatever you want.
Right. It doesn't necessarily... But when he says it's not a one-time thing, like, you're damn right. Once people go, wait, hold on. These guys have tens of billions of dollars, and if they were to just take 5% of their wealth and no one would tell them, they wouldn't even know. They wouldn't even be able to tell unless they saw their bank account. And if they were to check their bank account a month later, it would be the exact same because all of their assets would appreciate, like, because they all have passive income. Yeah, no, that's why it's not enough. That's why it needs to be way greater than 5%.
I love all the Squawk Box guys who will never sniff $1 billion in their life, or like, I'm so sorry that's happening to you. This is so terrible.
Well, I mean, like, there's a joke about how Congress is a bunch of millionaires who are servants to billionaires. That's our media class too, buddy. And that's basically it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a microcosm of our, like, you know, the way in which socioeconomic status becomes like a hierarchical ranking system for people, right? Where you're conditioned to have all this deference for people who have more money than you and all this scorn for people who have less money than you. Like, you're conditioned to hate poor and assign all these terrible qualities to them that justify them being poor. And the more money someone has, especially if they have more money than you, the more righteous they are, the more they should have a say in our society. And the fact that it's led to all of this, you know, don't pay attention to that.
Right. Keep going.
Whenever a state or a majority decides, hey, we don't like somebody or we don't like a group of people, we're just going to take their stuff, that's a violation of property rights.
You think it's going to pass?
Wait. I'm sorry. So when I was on CNN, we were talking about this very topic, and, you know, Scott Jennings, I think it was, or the other conservative on the panel, was just like, you know, it's because you don't like them. It's because you don't like billionaires. You want to go. It's like, what is this line of argument?
You're a bigot.
Yeah, I know. It's discrimination. Tax policy is about choices, about how we allocate resources in our society. We can raise taxes, we can decrease taxes. This is about raising taxes because we have an insane concentration of wealth. Let's pull up that chart after we're done with this clip that we showed earlier in the show. But It's just like they pretend like there's no material implication here, as we just hit a record of credit card debt in this country. We keep doing it month over month. We hit a record of subprime auto delinquencies, meaning that people just are completely behind on their car payments. Rent is as high as it's ever been in terms of proportion of income. Wage growth has completely stagnated in this country. And he's basically acting like the mob is just so irrational. They're discriminating against me.
Do you think it's going to pass, and do you think that the Supreme Court ultimately would uphold it?
Well, I think there's a good chance of it getting on the ballot, and then from there, I think it's probably there is a good chance of it passing. I can't say for sure.
Some of the polling that they just released showed 48% in favor, 36% opposed, and the rest.
Newsom doesn't sign it, though, does he? Or would they would override it, or is that?
Newsom cannot override it. He said he's opposed to it, but his ability to affect it is very limited because it's a ballot initiative. Now, will the Supreme Court ultimately find it unconstitutional?
And it's
good chance of that, but that's years and years and years from now. So, the damage is already being done right now in the state.
Are you surprised that people like Jensen and others have said we're staying in the state? Sam Altman saying he's staying in the state?
No, because they've got large companies in the state, and California's network effect is powerful, and that's why progressives think they can get away with this. But for a lot of other people whose businesses or situations are more flexible, they're leaving. And
wait, who are these other people?
The working class billionaires.
Right. That's what I'm getting at. Like, who are the small business billionaires? Who are these
mom and pop billionaires?
The mom and pop, right? Like, there is no other people. You're not talking about anyone because he just named the most well-known billionaires in the state, and they're not leaving because guess what? California is where the talent is for quite a few different industries, and in your sector especially, David Sachs. The tech
so
world,
you can bitch about it, but that's what they're, and you need talent. You need the workforce to make your company profitable. So if you want that, the people that work in your company may want to live in a state where there might be more childcare options for them, where they, may have access to certain, social infrastructure that Texas isn't providing. We showed this earlier. This is
not only Texas isn't providing. The reason that talent stays in places like California is because of the social safety net infrastructure and various government programs that allow them to live in that state and work in that state and raise a family. And guess what pays for that? The taxes from those billionaires, because those billionaires don't provide those services themselves as taking care of their employees.
Exactly right. And this has happened before in California. I think it was 2010 or 2011. They increased taxes on the wealthy in the state. And you know what happened? The number of millionaires increased. They use this threat of capital flight because they're trying to bully people into doing what they want. But you see how nervous he is about the fact that it's a ballot initiative.
Direct democracy.
Scares
the shit out of them.
That 99%, that 99.999% is banging down your door and ready to take your shit because you took it from us. So that's what's going to happen here, buddy. Look at this chart. I'm going to bookmark this and have this for every segment going forward, okay? Gabriel Zuckman. Want to credit this writer here. I'm putting this together on his Substack. I just want to see the caption up. Keep going down. The top of that chart. You went too far. It's okay. Here it is. Gabriel describes it here. The one thing that is growing extremely fast is the wealth of the top billionaires. The top 0.00001%. I hope I got the number of zeros right. Not sure it matters. Used to own the equivalent of 3% of national income in wealth in 2010. They now own the equivalent of 12% of the national income in 15 years. That top 0.00001% increase their wealth by multiple times over. So yeah, I think people are okay with a 5% billionaire tax. David Sachs shitting your pants over there. Give me a break, bro.
Well, he sounded so sad and scared.
I know.
It's going to start trickling down any day now. Well, I mean, I think rich people do, at least some of them understand that a lot of the social safety programs that we have and that were created largely in the first half of the 20th century were to prevent like an uprising. A lot of people who are critical of FDR are critical of him, at least from the left perspective, because the things that he did were half measures to prevent a true workers' revolution in the United States of America, amongst other things, obviously excluding, black and brown people from a lot of the programs. But a lot of our rich and people like Donald Trump have forgotten that, the things that we have, like the SEC, Social Security, they were because if we didn't have those things, we would probably have fewer rich people even to this day, because they wouldn't be allowed to exist in the country anymore. And so that's a lesson that, I think some of the more sophisticated administrators of the neoliberal state still understand. Like, that's what the Democrats still understand. Like, we have to alleviate at least a little bit of this poverty. Otherwise, people are just not going to take it anymore. But Republicans have just gone full mask off. Like, we got to do genocides. We got to like immiserate everybody, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. Because I think they understand that maybe even more than the Democrats. Like, I'm going to be real about that. Yeah. Ro Khanna is putting this out there, but besides, of course, you can probably get, a few dozen Democrats in the House to immediately sign on to something like this. There's still much discontent within the Democratic Party on this issue. The Republicans understand it. They actually really, really do. And that's why they're grabbing what they can with their grubby little paws. Like, they know this Trump era is unsustainable. They know he's deeply unpopular. They know that these tax cuts are going to, that they pass with the one big beautiful bill are just going to make the rich richer. They know that the future of the country is not gas and coal. They know that getting rid of electric vehicle subsidies and green energy projects is going to set the United States economy back relative to China in the long term, and that we are going to fall behind in competition and in technology. They know that, and that's why they're doing what they're doing. Like, this is a bunch of really, really rich, older, largely white men that are building a fortress for themselves and for their family because of the coming 99.99% that I talked about banging down the door. They are fortifying themselves, and they are they're in our house. They are ransacking it. They're taking everything that they can, and we're banging down the door like, let us in. This isn't yours. And they fundamentally know that they have to, before the door breaks down, take what they can. Planet's health be damned. Who cares? We are already so invested in oil and gas. This is where we have existing dominance. Investing in sectors that don't have high rates of returns. And no. Like, this is about what we can take, what we can't in the next 15, 20 years before we die or whatever. We're here to dominate. We're here to steal and plunder. And that's it. And the Republican Party has understood that for my whole lifetime, but like, never have they had the urgency that they have right now, because of the dynamic that we're describing right now. And the Bernie Sanders movement was the spark. But this is happening across the globe. And it's like, these guys are not to flag wave for just a second. These guys are not patriots. They don't care about the country at all. They are primarily transnational billionaires. And they are using nationalism and racism in our population to gin up that kind of resentment about the rest of the working class so that they can distract us as they rob the house.
They hate Americans. It's an affinity scam. And I think we've talked about this before on the show. All ethno-nationalism is an affinity scam to enrich a core group of people within whatever movement you're talking about. There's always a core group of billionaires, Le Pen's, Trump's, Hitler's, who get uber wealthy from pushing these sorts of things, or at least reach a level of extreme prominence, while everyone else who surrounds them, at least apart from their real inner circle, is not left materially better off directly. They just feel better off because they're not as low as whatever brown people they're being, taught to hate this week. And so, this is exactly what it's always been when it comes to things like this. But, you can see it in Trump, I think, more nakedly than, past fascists, even his contemporary fascists. He has a naked disdain for his followers. Like he has a naked disdain for his Americans. He spits on veterans. He assaults. He has his staff assault him at cemeteries. Like he could not hate Americans in the American whatever project more openly, but they don't really care because for them the American project has always just been about that hatred, and they pretend like it's not. But that's why they fly the Confederate flag. That's why they do a lot of like pro-Hitler stuff. Like that's why they celebrate America's enemies, because for them America is just about hating brown people, and so they feel aligned with Trump with that. But they don't realize that for him there's no real difference between like brown Americans and non-brown Americans. If they're poor, like he might kind of prefer you, but like not in any real meaningful way. It's so obvious. And
And when it comes to David Sachs, we were talking about yet another billionaire from South Africa who acts like he's the king of the world and Mr. America for some reason.
Right, and is against like there was a clip of Elon Musk I saw the other day. I think it was a little old, but him basically saying like Italy is for Italians. Like what will Italy become if it, bro, you're a white guy in South Africa. Like you're gonna basically talk about how like people don't have the right to migrate to where they want. I mean, give me a break.
Italy's for Italians. Italy didn't even exist the way it does today, like 100 years ago. Like that's such a funny thing to say. Italy's for Italians.
Right.
And it was just like a week or two ago where he was sharing memes that were nostalgic for Rhodesia or other thing altogether. Yeah. So I mean.
Well, we're talking about Trump here too in relation to David Sachs, and I just wanted to show this poll. The Economist has been kind of tracking Trump's approval rating. Let's just go through this kind of slowly here. So this is a little over 365 days into his term. Trump's been in power for it's just been a year. His net approval rating is -19. 37% approve, 56% disapprove. I've seen it higher elsewhere, but we kind of have his floor is like 30%. That's what we know because of the cult. But let's show it. Here you go. You can compare it to Biden. Whoa, I mean worse than Biden. The economy's even in worse shape than towards the end of Biden's term as well. But I was also here on the issues. What's driving it is the economy. Definitely. But immigration too. Like that was his best issue. He was +10 at the start of his term. Now he's closer to -10. National security, I guess, like he's sort of doing all right on that. But jobs in the economy, inflation and prices, taxes and spending, he's completely collapsed there. Americans are unhappy about that, but this is also important by state. So let's just look at some of the battleground states for the Senate. His net approval there is basically matching the national net approval.
That's great.
That's great for Graham Plattner. Knocking on wood. Go to Texas here, even, because we're also seeing, -17% approval in Texas. Welcome back, Matt Leck, fresh off his
North
interview.
Dakota holding strong.
Yeah. Matt's back in the studio.
I got to pad my stats a little bit.
Yeah. Okay, so, it's Georgia's the other key one here. Go over Georgia. -18. These are some of the key races across the country for the Senate. Do we also have Nebraska? All right, not that great, but Nebraska's pretty deep red.
Kowalski, there's your moment, buddy.
Well, also I'm thinking Osborne.
That's fine too, because that state's probably been screwed over harder than the first four we looked at.
Right.
By this administration. Too.
I mean, I know it's unfortunate, but how about let's go to Ohio really quickly with Sherrod Brown. That's pretty bad.
I mean, I think part of it is the states with a better I would say a more organized Democratic Party are probably more able to do things than places like South Dakota or Nebraska.
Right, because the Democratic Party hollowed out its infrastructure in many ways. So it's just important to point out here, like it may feel hopeless, but there are some really key races across the country where Trump is just not doing well. And I do not think it's going to get better over the course of the year. But they are using things like Minnesota as testing grounds for more authoritarian actions when it comes to voting across the country. Read a few IMs and we'll kind of set ourselves back up now that we have Matt Leck back. Center Spiral. People should remember that the urgency of needing to address the Trump situation has taken Carney away from bulldozing indigenous rights. That has been the brunt of his domestic policy. Please have on Rachel Gilmore. She's an independent Canadian journalist. Absolutely. Again, our appreciation for the speech is very separate from
him, frankly.
him.
It's a crazy statement to say, like, yeah, these were fictions. You guys were right that we were lying about it, but
Yeah.
it worked for us. Is shocking.
I'm sorry though. I will give that credit. Like, I actually think that acknowledgement is significant.
I appreciate it 100%. I mean, the same way when Chris Murphy's like, look, we tried to coup Guaido and tweeted it. Like, it's good to have confirmation for how the world works.
Pre from Ohio, the ultra rich have no country. Exactly right. Heated bribery. Billionaires are building fortresses for themselves and their families. Let's be honest, Trump's fortress only has room for Laura Loomer, Trump, and a lifetime supply, 6 months, worth of Big Macs and soda. Fair enough. Pussy Comitatus says the cartoon villain billionaires who don't care what the underclass thinks or feels aren't willing to sacrifice a fraction of their wealth to stop a revolution are also the ones building a bunker compounds in beautiful and exotic locales so they can be on the last private jet flight out as the buildings start to burn. Exactly right.
Yeah, but that's such a I hate to be a cynical person, but that plan is terrible because it all sounds well and good when you're building that bunker, but 5 weeks into the experiment, 5 weeks into the experiment, your head of security is going to take over that bunker with all the guns that they have to protect you. The people that there's no reason to protect you and your family after you start getting uppity about the way things should work when you're just like the sergeant of like a Mossad operation and half of your staff used to work for you there. Like, it's just going to be warlords. And Mark Zuckerberg is not going to be the warlord. Whoever the head of his security is going to be, like the billionaires
come on.
being
Mark
able
Zuckerberg's
exist.
been training. He's got the Krav Maga. You don't think he can take some mercenaries that he's hired?
You don't need job creators and entrepreneurs after after civilization collapses.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just ego to believe that would work out that way. But it doesn't stop them from destroying the planet and hoping.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. Ralph said, I wish the left would realize that Ro Khanna is just a progressive coded politician who is primarily concerned with protecting his billionaire friends and donors. He says he wants to ban stock trades that he himself engages in. He set up trusts in the names of his 6- and 7-year-old kids and other relatives to trade tens of millions of dollars worth of stocks. His disclosures show 10 recent purchases of Palantir stock, even after it was publicly known that the firm was running infrastructure to assist ICE with their kidnapping and deportation operations. He was buying Palantir as recently as this past fall. He lobbied for the bailout of Silicon Valley Bank and lied to the public during the bank's collapse, claiming that the banking system would collapse if the government didn't give billions of dollars to Silicon Valley billionaires. David Sachs hosted a $13,000 per plate fundraiser for him for a reason. It's nice to propose a billionaire tax, but given his deep financial ties and friendships to the people he supposedly wants to tax, this feels like political kabuki. Ralph, there's a reason that your point is incredibly well taken. There's a reason I asked Ro Khanna about this September 2023 when I did that event. That was the only reason I agreed to do that event with, I think, Vosh, and it ended up being Brianna Wu, which then October 7th happened and lots of stuff was revealed and, whatever. I'm not doing that stuff anymore. But I said yes to that opportunity because I was like, I literally want to ask Ro Khanna about this David Sachs stuff. And I asked him specifically, I said, will you commit to not doing any more fundraisers with David Sachs? And he very honestly said no. So in a sense, I give credit for him with that. I guess I should have made that connection when we were doing that clip that they had that connection in the past, and Sachs is pissed off in spite of what, pissed off about what his friend or former friend Ro Khanna was proposing. So I guess credit to Khanna for standing up to that. But again, there's a reason why, we haven't, been promoting him in the way that perhaps some other political channels have been, because I have the same skepticism that you have.
Yeah, I think I like the sort of squawking that those guys do as an opportunity to like say, look at how disloyal they are to America, threatening to move to Qatar or whatever. But there's a sense where Roe needs to walk the walk on a lot of this stuff. And that includes like the Palestine stuff, where all of a sudden he's like in a picture with Randy Fine and Jasper Nathaniel's like, do you know who this is? Like, I don't know who it is. Like that stuff is very frustrating, and it's created this meme that people have probably seen about the Roe Kana loop, where it's just a question mark that loops into a question mark.
Which reminds me of the Tulsi Gabbard loop, which is why people are wary.
And he's in a very strange position because he's riding two horses that are pulling in completely opposite directions, with the Bernie Sanders stuff and the Silicon Valley tech guys stuff. And so he needs to be pushed on, and if he wants to gain any sort of trust or credibility on this, it needs to be clear that this isn't kayfabe, what he's doing with the tech guys, because Krishna Ball was right about that text. Like, it's a start. I like to see anything happen to the claw back wealth from the, frankly, I think, parasites that are just hoovering it up in the past 15 years. But it is a revolution avoidance tax.
Yeah, that's what we were saying with this Sachs clip too. And you can find him as a very useful partisan, which he definitely has been in the Trump era with the Epstein stuff. Yep. I mean, and have praise for that. But I see him as separate from the squad in the same way, like Jasmine Crockett's a useful partisan, but she's not a member of the squad or the Democrats that don't take corporate PAC money, that rely on small dollar donations, that are, even like DSA associated. That's like more of where I place my, I feel like our political power can grow. But Kana has been doing some good stuff this year and has been useful. It's just like, to your point, not gonna laud him as my presidential pick in 2028, for example.
Yeah, useful and trustworthy are like different things.
Exactly. Let's, what should we do here? Okay, let's just do 12. This has been on our sound sheet for a while, right? No. Okay.
Did you realize what it was after looking at the sound sheet and getting
No, she realized what she was overlooking.
What did you overlook? No, I want to do the overlooking one then. What did you overlook?
That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing. Okay. Just want to shout out my good buddy Francesca Fiorentini, who did a long form video about Anna Kasparian apologizing for being wrong. She only just like misread, I guess, the fundamental issue of the last election, which wasn't like a prediction about who would win, which obviously I thought Kamala Harris would win. That seems very silly in hindsight, but she was involved in saying that Trump is not necessarily a fascist, that kind of deal. Francesca Fiorentini was retaliatorily fired from TYT for saying that the Trump administration was going to engage in throwing people into concentration camps, that he was going to be a fascist, all of that. So let's just play a little bit of Francesca's video, because gotta shout out my girl over there on the Bituation Room.
By the way, guys, I was so wrong. I'm sorry. I feel guilt every single day that I didn't see this coming.
Political commentator Anna Kasparian of the progressive network The Young Turks, who famously a few years ago declared herself politically unaligned and spent the run-up to the 2024 election and most of 2025 gracing right-wing shows, not to challenge but to find common ground with them, the ground right over the bodies of trans people.
Is it bad that I don't want to see a dick in the women's locker room? Is that bad?
No. Anna is now having a bit of a come to Jesus moment and apologizing for not seeing all of the fascism coming and not rightfully calling Trump a fascist.
By the way, guys, I was so wrong. I knew Trump was going to be bad. I didn't like, just because, when I hear the word fascist, I think of, fascism is a specific ideology. So when Jake and I got into that debate about whether or not Trump is fascist leading up to the election.
Notion of a fascist. Because look, if we're just going to use fascist toward anyone we dislike, all right, then the word doesn't actually mean anything.
Okay, what do you want me to say, Anna? You want me to say wannabe dictator,
Sure, you can say want to be dictator, but I don't even think he wants to be a dictator.
Of course he does. That's what you do when you lose an election and you go, oh, I got fake electors and I'd like to terminate the Constitution and bring out the tanks and use martial law against American citizens and shoot protesters. I mean, if that's not fascist, then I guess the word just shouldn't exist.
All right, Jay.
But was he able to do those things?
Pause it. I just love the idea that you can't. Fascism is apparently a distinct ideology, which you can see the differences between Mussolini and Hitler, and show that no, it's not necessarily that. It's about high levels of militarism, nationalism, the merging of corporate power with the state,
political violence to maintain hierarchy.
Right? It usually involves harkening back to this imagined mythical past that you have to return to justify state crackdown on leftists, on workers, on gay people, on minority groups, etc., on women. By the way, and that is how fascism is characterized. It is not a specific ideology in the way that she's describing it there.
It's also, just to that point too, it's also important to understand that fascists today understand fascism of yesterday. So a lot of people forget that, like, there are fascists who are very literate in like the fascism of Mussolini and Hitler and all of the fascism that predates them, and also understand that a lot of people maybe suffer from the same issue that Anna suffers from, where they're hyper specific in their understanding of fascism to be about like swastikas, goose stepping, Hugo Boss outfits through the streets of Germany between 20 something and 1945, right? So they get stuck in this idea of a very specific iteration of fascism and miss that, like, yeah, even fascists know to avoid that stuff sometimes when they're like advocating for more fascism.
Well, that's the characteristic of the Trump administration that she entirely disregards. She also would. This comes up at a later point, but she points out that Trump has disavowed different parts of Project 2025. She was saying this in the lead up to the election, that Trump is not on board with Project 2025 because he says he's not. I don't know. I mean, there's been a few instances I could think of in Trump's political life in which he has lied to achieve certain ends. But
Trump a liar?
No, I know.
That's crazy.
Well, I want you to weigh in a second, Binder, but just want to zoom out for a second. The argument, how idiotic the argument was there, that because Trump was not able to successfully overturn the election, that he is not a fascist. I thought the bar was him having a fascist ideology. Cenk lays out rightly some of the authoritarian impulses of the Trump administration. And now the bar has become, well, has he been successful at it? Well, now we know. Now we know, because over 60% of Project 2025 has been implemented. We now see the fascist characteristics of this administration being played out on the streets of Minneapolis. We see them kidnapping children. We see them shooting protesters in the face. The anti-democratic nature of it. The reporting that Ken Klippenstein has done, how they're targeting leftists. They're targeting people with non-traditional family values. They are targeting anybody that may disagree with them on issues of capitalism, for example. They are rounding up immigrants. There was a report in Popular Information that they have not paid for the medical care of tens of thousands of detainees that ICE has rounded up in their concentration camps, with which Francesca was mocked for accurately saying was going to happen by Cenk and Anna, and then retaliatorily fired over her accurate assessment of that. They have stopped paying for the medical care of over 70,000 people that they have rounded up in these camps without any due process. And now there are reports every other day that someone's dying in ICE detention. It could be that they're denying them medical care because these are concentration camps. And there was the Cuban guy, the 55-year-old man, who was strangled reportedly in an El Paso concentration camp. It's being ruled a homicide. So, like, what is going on here is textbook fascism. Now, okay, we can be generous. If this was somebody, a Trump voter, I don't know who she voted for. If this was a random Trump voter or something like that and said, like, man, I'm so sorry, I was wrong about this. You have to give people the grace to change. That's obvious. That is different than being a political commentator who has been in this space for many, 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 many years and was presented with information about Project 2025. It was actually laid out in the plan. It was pretty easy to read it, and was dismissive of that very notion, because it's not just about how you act when you go to the voting booth. You have a responsibility as a commentator and as somebody who puts things out on the internet and who talks about politics and is attempting at least to influence people. I mean, at least that's my goal, is to try to hope to educate myself and educate other people in the process. You have a responsibility to relay that information accurately. And she chose a different path.
And there's no excuse for being wrong about this stuff, because anyone should have known that the hyper focus on things like, I mean, I remember the time that it broke me, and when I took the gloves off, was when Cenk responded to that video of the immigrants and the altercation with the cops when they pushed him into the corner. And Cenk went on and said, why are we allowing immigrants to punch cops? As if that's a real fucking thing that happened anywhere. And you're a news organization meant to represent the left. That wasn't fucking happening. So all this stuff, that down to the Tren de Aragua focus on immigration, not only did you get it wrong, you helped lay the groundwork while you were wrong. This requires a lot of more apology. And I have Francesca back on, because I do think, look, if I don't have a rivalrous relationship with TYT, I would love it if they were Cenk seemed to think we're trying to steal their audience. I would love it if their audience wasn't deserting them. If they could get 100 fucking people to watch them on Twitch. I'd love it if there was, because I don't want to be the only battleship in the ocean when this fascist takeover continues.
We don't have the capacity.
Exactly.
We need more progressive networks. I believed in that network. That's why I worked there. I want people to succeed. I wanted them to. The fact that they were well financed and still doing progressive commentary at the time was a good thing.
Yeah. And it would be nice if this was a sign, because the problem is, what Anna admits there is that she was so focused on how other people were, their tone about this. And that's not your job, is to please everyone else's tone and make sure that everyone else is getting it right for how Jillian Michaels might fucking accept it. Who cares?
Yeah, I recall one of the experiences she said she had that made her rethink things was she had a kind MAGA neighbor or something. Do you recall this? And it's first of all, that's not.
Oh, yes.
People are nice in their everyday all the time. Their political leanings have no bearing on that sometimes. I know people who are friendly and neighborly conservatives too. That doesn't mean that you, the political commentator with decades of experience doing this, get influenced by them being nice to you. If anything, you should have been the other way around. It should have been you influencing that MAGA neighbor of, oh, wow, this person has these political leanings and this is what they're saying. They're smart and know things. Maybe I should reconsider. But instead, you let someone ask to borrow some sugar, change your mind about things, which is insane.
It's hilarious. I mean, it is a false premise, because I'm very vocally on the left. I still have friends from growing up that are freaking Republicans, believe it or not. And it's like the idea that I would allow that to influence my politics is crazy. Just because I love those people and they're in my life doesn't necessarily mean I share those values, and that shouldn't be hold any bearing on how you conduct yourself professionally in your news analysis. Just to Matt's point about Tren de Aragua and all this stuff. There was a great piece about a year ago at this point by Maureen Tachik of the American Prospect talking about the Aurora, Colorado instance. There was this woman from Aurora, Colorado who testified in front of Congress, which was controlled by Republicans at the time. This was at the tail end of Biden's term, about Tren de Aragua gang activity at her complex. She's the woman that their ring camera footage was used in local news coverage to gin up this crime panic. Trump ended up appearing with her at a campaign rally in Aurora, Colorado in 2024. And you find out basically that the landlord was working with her in conjunction with a communications firm, a very, very well-funded communications firm. You wonder how that was bankrolled, to talk about how Tren de Aragua had taken over this apartment complex and that it just was out of control. You find out it's a slumlord. You find out it's a slumlord that's been neglecting the building there because they want these low-income tenants out. because they want to sell off the property. It's actually much more profitable for them to do that. Repairs don't necessarily increase property value for the most part for landlords. That's part of the horrible incentive structure that is embedded in the privatization of housing in this country. It's much more profitable for them to neglect a property, especially if it's very low income people and they're not making great returns on it, and then sell it off. That was what they were trying to do in Aurora, Colorado. Now, Illinois. Headline this today. Illinois is probing whether landlord prompted immigration raid at South Shore apartment building. Remember that immigration raid where children were taken from their beds, some of them naked and zip-tied in the street, separated from their parents. They were reportedly separating them based on race. And then they trashed that apartment complex and broke windows and destroyed people's apartments with no recourse. Yeah, it was the slumlord that called in immigration. Apparently, they're investigating this. Look, like, I'm going to make an editorial assessment of this, which we said at the time, because we have media literacy, that this was likely the landlord that was doing this. But here it is. Illinois is investigating claims that the landlord of a South Shore building at the center of a widely publicized immigration raid last year tipped off federal agents in an attempt to intimidate the residents out of the building. The Illinois Department of Human Rights announced Wednesday that it filed a formal housing discrimination charge and opened an investigation into the owners and managers of the building. Trinity Flood, we spoke about that management before, and they're doing this on anti-discrimination grounds. Good for J.B. Pritzker, good for Illinois. Every state should be doing this for every slumlord that calls in and tries to harass their low-income tenants and use the boot of the state to kick them out. Because the reality of immigration policy in this country is people like Anna get fooled by fake populists like Josh Hawley or whatever, or Tucker Carlson flattering her, is that immigration policy is used to enforce, to benefit capital and to benefit owners and bosses who want to either sell off a property like this or say they have some employees that are getting a little bit too rowdy and wanting worker protections and wage increases. Well, if half of your employee base is maybe undocumented, what do you know? I might just call ICE. You want to complain? You're a 15-year-old boy working in a meatpacking plant. You're a little worried that your fingers may get caught in the machinery or you might die, as has happened. Well, too bad. You can't call. There's no one coming for you. And in fact, if you complain, we will ruin your life and deport you. And there's like no recognition of what immigration enforcement and how that actually operates in this country. How policing, frankly, has operated too. Like, this is a part of a systemic critique of the police system in this country, which benefits bosses and capital. That's the asymmetry that the left has been talking about. And the idea that you can be in this political commentary space on the supposedly progressive network and not have that fundamental understanding about the role of policing means you just don't read. You may read the news on a daily basis, but you're not reading books.
Too much reading like charlatans that guest host on Tim Pool's show. Whatever that guy's name was.
I have no patience. I have no patience for the people that were not clear about what this administration was going to be. Yeah. It was abundantly clear. And then to be like, Trump said it. Trump said he wasn't going to do this.
He said he was anti-war.
What happened for the 6 previous years of analyzing him politically and the lies that he told all the way through? I don't know if there's any characteristic of Trump that is more obvious to everybody in the world, besides his orange face and his spray tan, than his ability to lie all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoopsie.
Great points, Emma.
Thank you.
And it's so sick. And people are across, when they see that situation, you see it from people who are like nominally describe themselves as progressive all the time. It's the immigrants who are driving down the cost of labor. It's the immigrants who are driving up the cost of rent by being in the country. Their first instinct is to attack the undocumented worker. Their first instinct is to segregate the working class and not to go after the people hiring those workers, go after the landlords who are, operating this black market for rentals. Because the only way to solve this issue, if you really believe that is a problem, if you really believe that the influx of undocumented labor into the country is a problem and you want to solve it, the only solution is to document them. The only solution is to integrate them better into like the system, because you can't stop people from coming into your country, at least not in a way that doesn't erode the civil rights of everyone else in the country itself. So in that way, like, the undocumented immigrants have won. There's just no way to do what you're trying to do without ethnic cleansing, without eroding the civil rights of a democratic country. There's just no way to do it. And so if you really care about like the goal, like, because sometimes people will say they care about the goal of bringing, of not like having labor's value devalued by undocumented labor, but they don't seem to care as much about that goal as hurting brown people, hurting undocumented immigrants, because the solution to that is just, it's just to document them. It's to integrate them into like the working force and to organize.
Yeah, and the broader question, like Venezuela, like have some fucking object permanence. Why are people coming into this country from Venezuela? It's not because Venezuelans all of a sudden heard about all the opportunity in America. It's because we destroyed their main industry. Like, we actually stop having these foreign policy that displaces people broadly, and then like this idea that, because like you said, Brandon, that border's never been secure. Never in our history. There's a reason Reagan did mass amnesty, is because it's impractical not to do anything otherwise. And ever since the 90s, okay, we're going to do military buildup in the Gulf of Mexico. So that shifts things over to the Rio. So now the Rio Grande. So now we're going to build a fucking wall. It's just boondoggle after boondoggle for security contractors.
Well, a lot of people are, they have a very punitive understanding of how crime is solved. And even though we understand that like being an undocumented immigrant is not that kind of crime. And so they just think that like, well, if we document them, we're rewarding them for crime, which is a stupid position. It's like, it's a dumb person's position, because like we're rewarding them for the crime of coming into the country to trying to work. It doesn't make any sense, right? But people think it makes sense because they're very punitive about what it means to like, have a moral and just society. It has to be punishment. Someone does a crime, even if it's like a civil crime, then they have to be punished in a way that I think it suits the offense. But it doesn't make any sense when you actually talk about the consequences and the goals. Although I will say with the Venezuela thing, I've heard people make this exact same excuse that you're referencing when it comes to Trump not being a fascist, where if he's not effective at it, it doesn't count. People said the same thing about him, like the coup, right? The January 6th thing, like, well, because it didn't work, because January 6th wouldn't have actually overturned the election, then all of the stuff he did with the electors in different states and trying to get that overturned and find the votes, that doesn't count because it wasn't effective. People have said that it wasn't a regime change operation in Venezuela because it didn't work now. Like, that's like the retreat position. Like, oh, it couldn't have been a regime change because the regime is still in charge. So like, it's not imperialism.
It sounds like it can't be genocide because there are still people in Gaza who are alive. Yeah. I mean, that's what it sounds like. How do you define genocide? Is a very specific term. It's a very specific
Webster Dictionary.
Let's get really fucking granular about fascism and about genocide.
Well, that's the other thing.
I mean, but when you're right, I mean, when you're this is a deliberate, motivated desire to not see the forest through the trees, to just stare at the fucking trunk. Because the trees printed money for you. I mean, let's be real about it.
Or it's kind of scary. Like, I think you're definitely right about that. But Glenn Beck and all that other stuff. Like, the pivot was really embarrassing and seemed cynical to me. I think there is an element with both Ezra and Anna that they were in denial about what's coming.
Whatever. I don't really care what the reasoning is. I mean, I guess, but I mean,
it's discrediting.
or being so traumatized by the idea of maybe seeing a dick in the locker room as an adult woman. That's enough. Like,
underestimating the right. We have a nasty, sick, disgusting right wing in this party that was literally like 30 years ago saying gay people can't be teachers. Like, and the lost cause shit clearly never went away. We've never addressed all the closet Klansmen here, and now they've taken over like a new branch of the executive of government.
Also,
good.
No, also I'm in men's locker rooms every day. No,
yeah.
I go to the gym every day, and like you don't have to look at the dick. You can just like look at their face. You don't have to look at them at all. Like, sis, stop looking. Don't look at
staring at people's genitalia? I'm avoiding eye contact in the locker room every time.
I'm trying to change and go about my day.
Yeah, and I live in New York. I'm pretty sure I've been in a locker room with a trans woman. What is gonna happen to me?
I get called a birthing person.
I mean, hopefully. I might. We should subsidize the fainting couch for her. Does the poly market money pay for her fainting couch?
Go back on those shows and tell Tucker and
I thought I was going to
Glenn.
be gracious in this segment, but man, I mean, man.
You're unloading. You're unloading.
Man.
gonna be
No,
like
because it's
Poly
malicious,
Market.
because I know she's not that dumb.
Is it still called the Poly Market Studios, by the way? As
No, they were embarrassed into changing it hilariously.
Oh, they were? Okay, because you know, I mean, they didn't really have to wait for the blowback from the audience. Just look at how these prediction markets are what they became. Just literally like a month or two after they had given the studio that name. I mean, it's ridiculous.
They have done genuine harm. They have done genuine harm by laundering this administration.
And reinforcing the narratives about not just immigrants, but again trans people, things that hobby horses that this fascist administration rode into power on.
Yeah, they have done genuine harm. And yeah, I guess they overestimated how much cultural cachet Trump and a bunch of AI crypto billionaires were going to have in the wake of his victory. Whoopsie, sorry, it's not that lucrative. How much is her take pulling in right now? Made the wrong bet.
I mean, I felt like they're hit or miss when it came to the various people they gave a huge platform to, like Jimmy Dore and what's his face? Who's that guy?
Rebel HQ's shit they did.
Yeah, used to be my old channel.
Joking.
What a dumb name that Jenk forced upon it.
I was taking a shot.
But like the number of former TYT people who became right wingers, not a good track record. How many people left the majority party over the years and became right wingers? I can say none. Pretty weird. Yeah.
I don't know what's Brendan Finn up to.
I'm making my plans. I think left to right black conservative is that's printing money. That's printing money in the Trump economy.
I check out Francesca's channel. Subscribe to the Bituation Room.
I'd love to see Francesca back on TYT affiliate shows.
I mean, that's where that's what gets me heated. I love Francesca. I really, and there's such few women in this space. Like the idea that they tore her down in that way just gets me furious. But there's some great female creators. Crystal Ball, of course. Francesca. I mean, we could list them, but you get what I'm saying here. Check out the Bituation Room, and they did her really dirty.
Instead, she plays the role of hall monitor. She polices what one can say, what they should believe, who they can talk to, and what they can talk about.
That was about me, right? Yeah. Okay. Known hall monitor.
That was only like 2 months ago.
I don't even remember. God. So much.
Figlin.
Yep. Where's my badge?
We had more hall monitors saying, "Hey, don't do the supporting fascism thing."
Fascism is a very specific ideology. It's so specific that forget it. Molotov burrito. Even if you're in a locker room, you don't have the right to be looking at people's genitalia. I mean, yeah, accidentally sometimes you see people naked, but it's like you don't focus on it. I don't understand.
Not a peep show.
Are people just revealing that they're perverts secretly? It's so
If you see genitals in a
secretly all the time.
Yeah, right.
This is why I never go into locker rooms. I don't need all these people looking at my my crotch. So
right, that's don't want to. I can't even work out anymore because people may see you naked in the locker room. Floridians for Emma says the defense of conservatives from folks at TYT is crazy to me because even the most conservative people I know from growing up in a fundamentalist Catholic house homeschool group have reached their breaking point with this administration months ago and have said that they would never vote for Trump or his lackeys again and highly doubt they'll vote for another Republican based on the state of the party. There's room to bring people into the fold and deprogram them rather than concede to the crazies. Vizenev, in the full Francesca clip, she does point out Anna seems to be mostly incensed that specifically citizens are being terrorized by ICE. I'd love to hear if she stands by that really ugly quip about seeing a dick in the locker room. The point is not necessarily where she's at right now. I don't particularly care. The point is that when it was most critical, to oppose this administration, they were laundering the reputation of Trump and the right-wing project. Fabucat58, I'm extremely old enough to remember when Anna Kasparian claimed that Project 2025 was harmless. I'm ashamed that her anti-trans rants didn't push me over the edge, but Anna's poo-pooing of Project made me abruptly quit TYT.
Do you want to take a trip down memory lane? Go a little bit longer today.
Oh my God.
This is a clip from 9 years ago, where to your point, Emma, about them knowing better, is they've literally done better on camera, so they don't have an excuse.
F it.
House Speaker Tim Moore told reporters in Raleigh that North Carolina would not be bullied into meeting the U.S. Justice Department's Monday deadline to change the law. So the federal government looked into North Carolina's anti-LGBT law, which of course specifically focuses transgender individuals and makes them use the bathroom that they do not identify with. And the federal government decided, hey, you know what? You guys are actually breaking some federal laws, civil rights laws. Now, the Republicans are saying, we don't care. The RNC told us we can do whatever the hell we want. So the Republican National Committee urged state legislators in January to resist.
People remember this story. I just want to skip a little bit ahead to some of the other contributions here.
He's the one that, oh my, can you
look who's there!
I know, this is amazing.
Look at the hair dye.
Trump is the one who's embarrassing them. He's the one that, oh my, can you believe this guy? Where's the queer? I want to punch him. What's wrong? That Trump is so embarrassing. What's with these? That's the whole thing. It's like, who are you pretending to not like? This is who they are. This is it. This is unbelievable. This is 2016.
So Oxford, Alabama was a city that decided to take these anti-trans laws and go overboard. Okay, so they were going to, if they caught anyone, they would give them a $500 fine and up to 6 months behind bars. And then they decided, oh, you know what? Actually, we are going to reverse this law that the city council passed because it breaks federal laws and they're going to come after us and it's a bad idea. So at least they were smart enough to realize, hey, you know, we're bigoted assholes, but we don't want to pay any consequences for it, so we're going to reverse this law. In the case of North Carolina, the Republicans don't care that they're bigoted assholes, and they might face some severe consequences for it.
All right, we're going to go just to the end there. I know this is only a 5-minute 40 clip. I recommend the entire thing. It's shocking.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at her. I'm like, I like her.
I know.
Who's that? Oh, that's my old buddy.
TYT we missed.
Yeah.
It's a great show.
Looking to this day. No, I don't care what you think you are. I don't care what you... Freedom? No, you don't get to have freedom. I get to have the freedom to discriminate against you. So if you're trans, you're not going to go into the bathrooms you want, etc. Now, I know we've discussed this in the past, but I was just at a YouTube creator summit for the top 100 YouTube creators. Not a big deal. And one of them is Gigi Gorgeous, and she's trans, right? And to her, she matches up to her name. She's gorgeous. According to North Carolina, this blonde woman that would have to go into the men's bathroom. Okay, and if she did, all the men would be like, what's she doing in here? Okay,
I don't know
actually,
if they would react that way.
Probably they'd react in a different way. Those same North Carolina Republicans would be like, yes, right?
They'd be like, hey, I got a wide stance over here.
Right. But it makes no sense. She's a woman. She looks like a woman. She's a woman in every way, and you want her to go into the men's bathroom. And then women, the people who are born women who actually identify as males, and you cannot separate from males now.
Yeah.
You know, we've shown pictures in the past. They'd have to walk into the women's bathroom. Then you'd have a federal emergency on your hands. They'd be like, oh, look, there's a guy in the women's bathroom. We knew it, the liberals, the perverts. No, you put him in there. You see what I'm saying?
I know, it is kind of incredible, though, because in an effort to keep men out of the women's bathroom, they're allowing men into the women's bathroom. They're such fucking idiots.
All right, well, there you go. I mean,
were they wrong? Are they saying? But that's what I'm saying. Like, in their mind, are they saying they're embarrassed of that clip now? Because I think it was good coverage of the issue. I mean, maybe a little bit clumsy, but you know what? In the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, for 2016.
This is crazy. This is 2016.
Yeah, I know. That's so crazy. Dang.
Never trust a guy in a blazer and t-shirt.
Or two guys in a blazer and t-shirt.
Clay Adonis, I'm sure trans women who have to live in constant fear of violence love to go into locker rooms and expose themselves. Exactly right. They're just like, take a look, everybody. Yeah, it's just horrible. Senate Twink, even in this clip, Jake is viewing trans rights through the male gaze.
She's a woman. I wanted to fuck her.
Yeah, she's hot. Yeah, I mean, in my view, like focusing on who passes and who doesn't is not the right way to be. Like, you know,
Very crude.
People like to point out, like Buck Angel, that trans guy who's super buff. Like, you want to go, but there's a lot of people. I mean, this is the problem with not guaranteeing trans healthcare and acting as like it's different than other kinds of healthcare. Because it actually endangers people. If they have gender affirming care, every trans man can be Buck Angel if they want to be, or they can present their gender however they want to. But that's why it needs to be guaranteed as healthcare, because it is.
That's how they should sell. That's how they should sell it too. Every trans male can be Buck Angel if they want to.
And that's the response. Like, there's this idea from people like TYT that the left is pushing all these ideas. No, we responded to all this shit about Republicans saying, okay, we need to pass laws saying trans women need to go in men's bathrooms. And then it's like when they got pushed back from that because everyone had their fucking right idea, including TYT, they moved on to, well, we need to pass laws. Now the politics, we need to get this entire apparatus of state and federal governments involved in girls fucking high school volleyball.
Yeah.
It should have been dismissed by anyone with a fucking brain as a distraction, but it wasn't. They were played into it.
But also, I mean, the idea that you can separate trans rights even from gay rights from we are all interconnected. This is just like a fundamental belief in left-wing ideology. The rights of all of us are interconnected. Renee Good shot in the face by that ICE agent. It was because she's a woman. He said fucking bitch. He was triggered by it, and he was triggered by her queerness. It was obvious in the video that they released that she had a lesbian partner. They're not stopping at trans people.
Also, I mean, you know, they're relying on people's own internal bigotry and preference towards themselves to imagine that there are obvious, visible boundaries between them and whatever problematized group we're taking the rights away from this week. That there is some easy way to distinguish between an immigrant and a non-immigrant in the United States of America. That there's some sort of easy way to distinguish between a trans person and a non-trans person. But there isn't, right?
Yep.
For bigots, it's easy for them to convince themselves that there is. For people who are egocentric, it's easy for them to convince themselves that when everyone who they don't know sees them, they see every good thing about them and nothing that they, you know, might be uncomfortable with. But that's not how the world works. But it is how a lot of people who, again, are conditioned to think hyper individualistically about themselves think the world works. And so, you know, when it comes to like the erosion of trans rights, when it comes to the erosion of immigrants' rights, they're all just the same thing. The erosion of everyone's rights, the working class rights, getting you to agree that the government should be able to reach their hand down your pants, to break into your home and check if you belong in the country. That, like Kirsty Noem said, the ICE needs to be able to stop everybody, because how could you possibly tell who's a citizen and not a citizen? And if you had said that before they actually implemented this policy, people would have told you that was crazy, because of course there's a way. You just tell who's Latino, but a lot of Latinos are American. It's no reason they're Puerto Rican, right? And so it's impossible to tell, but people were very easily convinced that it was until it was too late. And the trans thing is another issue where, like, it's impossible to tell if you're being honest. And transphobes reveal that they can't tell all the time, but they still imagine that when the police state comes and marches and checks who's a woman and who's not, that of course you'll be able to tell.
Yeah, and I watched this, no one saw this movie, but The Testament of Anne Lee. It's like a musical with I try to watch some of these because I heard good things. I like Amanda Seyfried, and there's a scene where she sorry, spoiler alert, but I don't think it's that big of a spoiler. Like, as a religious prophet, because she's like preaching abstinence, and it's a way for women to kind of leave their abusive marriages and not be a part of like their marriages anymore for the most part, that she's like beaten up by a bunch of men, and they rip off her underwear, and they say she's not a woman. She's not a woman, and they're trying to they inspect her genitals to prove that she's not really a woman, because how could she not be a woman? How could she be a woman and be preaching abstinence and be rejecting the covenant of marriage and sex with men and stuff like that. And so my point is just like policing what femininity is and what a woman is for the most part is a tale as old as time. And it's about patriarchy, and it's about religious fundamentalism, and it predates the founding of our country. I'm not sure how accurate that scene is, of course, but like I would not be shocked if like, you know, if that was true. So.
She was on Bill Maher talking about seeing penises in locker rooms as the right for women to be empowered over their healthcare choices with regards to giving birth was eroded entirely.
Yeah.
Like, what were you doing?
Yeah.
And that's the same thing as trans people. Women should be empowered over their health care, and anyone who can give birth, which is not a distinction I have an issue making, and people shouldn't have in this business. And trans people should be empowered. It's people in general should be empowered over their healthcare decisions.
All right, 5 more and we will get out of here. Sickles up economy. This is why I don't go anywhere unless I know there's a unisex bathroom in case I should encounter someone with these nonsensical fears. Also, no one bats an eye about trans men. It's always about dicks. Yep. My stomach just grumbled so loudly.
I thought that was the elevator.
Oh my God! Did the
elevator's falling through the shaft right now?
Now I'm hungry. I'm hungry too now.
Did that pick up?
I think it did.
God damn it!
But that'd be a sound drop.
I would have had no idea what it was though if you didn't announce it to everybody. So.
Oh, Jesus!
Burned a lot of calories in that last segment.
I guess so. I had a good breakfast this morning too. I gotta like lean forward so that I don't. I feel like it's gonna grumble again. Gotta get out of here. Charlie Sheehan, trans women are the last people who want to look at their junk. That's just how dysphoria works. John Player, I love everyone's work on the show. That hasn't dismissed your mayor and by extension Continuum. As for those people, don't trust myself with loving you. Emma understands what's good for the soul. I'm Majority Report forever. That's a John Mayer reference. And Joe Snappy, over the last 2 weeks, apolitical normies have gone from worrying about the midterms to calling for general strikes and armed revolution. It feels like we've somehow skipped a lot of steps and suddenly we're in a new universe of possibility. I think that's true. I think there's a lot of steps that we need to get to a better place where we can seize that possibility. And the final I am of the day, Mike from Portland. Fascism is the marriage of corporations and the government. Quite obvious that this has happened. Appreciate you all.
Not thrilled about that definition, but I'll accept it for now.
I think that's a piece of it, and then it's also
libertarians love citing that definition, like Glenn Greenwald, and I think it leaves a little bit to be desired. Like the marriage between like international fine. There's communist or Robert Paxton's definitions, which there's not to say there's not truth to that one. So
no, it's just a piece. It's a part. The fundamental is like violence used by the state and the marginalized others that are the recipient of that. So that's the more active way to define it. Appreciate you all. I'm gonna go have a snack. Thank you so much, you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bulb. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I guess somewhere the choice was made for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive